Chapter 30:10. I'll return you a corpse. His actions seemed to be unintentional, but in Bailey Ishiong's eyes, it made his heart grow heavier. He hadn't expected that this delicate and pretty fellow in front of him was not only arrogant, but also very meticulous. In the world of the 9 prefectures, people like this young man were the most difficult to deal with. He was rough but meticulous, and had extraordinary courage. If he didn't die, he would definitely be born. I've already given you the imperial crystals. Can you give him to me now? Bailey Ishiong said again, You, don't think about going back on your words because the entire city has been sealed off. If you don't hand over the person, you won't be able to leave this place. This was also the reason why he had paid the money. He felt that Lin Ling and Lu Li would not be able to leave Dragon Tooth City. After an hour, head east and you'll be able to see your precious son. Of course, you can also follow us secretly, but I can't guarantee what I'll do. Lin Ling raised his head and said to Bailey Ishiong, What a cunning brat. All right, I promise you. Bailey Ishiong attached even more importance to Lin Ling. The way this youth handled matters was simply watertight. Big brother, take Bailey Yanwu away from here. Lin Ling smiled and said calmly. The two of them then left the arena. Outside the arena, a large number of experts had already gathered. Every one of them was as shocked as celestial beings. They never thought that there would be 2 ferocious people who dared to cause a huge commotion in Dragon Tooth City. Is it the 2 of them? He's so young. He dares to fight an old monster of the half-saint realm at such a young age. His accomplishments will be extraordinary in the future. That's right. People like us don't even dare to speak when we encounter a half-saint. What's the point? They can't leave Dragon Tooth City. The passers-by discussed animatedly. Some admired him, while others sneered. Dang! Of course, there were also people who wanted to seize the opportunity to snatch young Master Bailey away. However, they were all killed by Lin Ling with a single slash. Let them go. We'll look for them in an hour. Moreover, Bailey Ishiong didn't want to stop Lin Ling and Bai Yunfei. Right now, his goal was to get his son back. However, the killing intent in Bailey Ishiong's eyes intensified as he watched Lin Ling and Huang Xiaolong disappear into the distance. That blue-robed young man is a peerless genius. We can't let him leave Dragon Tooth City alive, or else it will be a disaster for us. My lord, the Dragon Tooth City is sealed by Lord Lu's barrier. As long as they let young master go, they won't be able to escape. Someone immediately replied respectfully. Good, well done. Although they're definitely going to die, their courage is really extraordinary. It's said that a strong dragon can't defeat a local snake, but they've still stirred up a storm in Dragon Tooth City. Hearing that, Bailey Ishiong nodded and sneered. At this moment, it was getting closer and closer to the 1-hour limit. Lin Ling and Bai Yunfei quickly passed through the city. However, the Dragon Tooth City was vast and boundless. With their speed, they still hadn't reached the city walls in an hour. Second brother, the city has been sealed. We can't leave at all. Di Shirtian looked at the sky in the distance and said with some worry, Big brother, I can just break the barrier of this city, so there's no need to worry about escaping. On the contrary, the Bailey clan and Lu clan have provoked us, so I plan to uproot them. Lin Ling smiled and calmly looked at Di Shirtian, which made the latter gasp. His second brother had such a big appetite. Most importantly, the Lu clan is my mortal enemy. I'll definitely destroy them. Lin Ling said again, but when he said the last sentence, his voice was ice-cold, as if he had a blood feud with someone. Is it Li Xiaoyao? Di Shirtian immediately guessed something. Lin Ling nodded. Okay, Big Brother will accompany you, but what about this thing? Di Shirtian and Lin Ling were friends from the Rainforest Holy Land, so he naturally wouldn't hesitate. However, he helplessly looked at the unconscious Bailey Yanwu. Kill him. What? Kill him? Didn't we use him as a hostage? This guy can't be a hostage. What's more, we don't have any grudges with the Bailey clan. It's all because of this guy. He actually dared to do such a thing. What's the point of keeping him alive? In fact, I've been waiting for you to say this. After the two looked at each other, Di Shirtian directly killed Bailey Yanwu and threw him on the street, leaving a line of words, We have handed him over to you. Previously, Lin Ling said that he would hand over the person, but he didn't say whether he would hand over a dead person or a living person. Since he didn't say this, then Lin Ling must have handed over a dead person. After throwing Bailey Yenwu on the street, the two quickly disappeared. Bailey Yenwu's body was lying on the street. At first, it wasn't discovered, but gradually, more and more people gathered around. Everyone was panicking. It's over. Young Master Bailey is dead. Yeah, look at how ugly his death is. Lord Bailey will definitely be furious. He's most afraid of implicating us. This young Master Bailey also provoked the wrong person. He thought that he could do whatever he wanted because he was Bailey Yenwu. However, he didn't know that when others went all out, they would still dare to kill him. All kinds of voices were constantly heard in the streets and alleys. Not long after, Bailey Ishiong arrived. Looking at his dead son, he was stunned. Find them, we must find them, even if we have to scour the ground. After a moment, Bailey Ishiong's roar spread throughout the city. Obviously, he didn't expect that Lin Ling's so-called hostage was actually just a corpse. This dragon is too fierce. Isn't he afraid of incurring the wrath of the heavens? Mobilize all the warriors in the city. Search them. Dragon Tooth City was sealed off, so people weren't afraid that Lin Ling and Bailey Yenwu would escape. As long as they spent some time, they would definitely be able to find Lin Ling and Bailey Yenwu. Even the Lu family received the news. Even Lu Shengyun was surprised by the courage of Lin Ling and Bailey Yenwu. They wouldn't stop until they were dead. Lord, do we need to help with this matter? Someone asked Lu Shengyun. Of course we need to help. Those two cockroaches humiliated the young lady. This hatred must be avenged. Lu Shengyun also ordered the experts of the Lu family to search Lin Ling and Bailey Yenwu. In Lu Shengyun's view, even if Lin Ling and Bailey Yenwu were a dragon, they were still lying in Dragon Tooth City at this moment. Dragon Tooth City, a lawless area, was like a devil city, a place abandoned by the gods. At this moment, huge waves were stirred up in the city. However, when people thought that Lin Ling and Bailey Yenwu would definitely be found, someone saw a hole in the city wall. There was a huge black hole in the sky, as if it led to the universal void. This discovery made Lu Shengyun's expression change greatly. He knew that the two had forcibly broken his formation and rushed out of Dragon Tooth City. What? Isn't this city's formation something that can only be broken by a half-step Saint Realm expert? When Bailey Ishiong heard the news, his face was filled with rage. Could it be that his son had died in vain? Moreover, killing his son, stirring up a storm in Dragon Tooth City, and then safely leaving Dragon Tooth City. If this matter spread out, he, Bailey Ishiong, would no longer have any face to speak of. However, Lu Shengyun guessed that Lin Ling and Bailey Yenwu were hiding powerful treasures on their bodies. They could launch a terrifying attack to break out of the formation, and this kind of treasure could only be used once. Chapter 30:11. Attack the Lu family. Fortunately, the ancient forest was also their territory. Although it was not as convenient as the Dragon Tooth City, capturing Lin Ling and the other person alive was only a matter of time. Therefore, it didn't take long for the experts of the two great forces to swarm out and enter the ancient forest. They must capture Lin Ling and Yi Shiwen alive in the ancient forest. However, at this moment, no one saw that in a restaurant in Dragon Tooth City, two people wearing large cloaks were calmly drinking wine. Shockingly, they were Lin Ling and Yi Shiwen. They didn't leave the city at all. Fairy Lu, she was the one who brought this vengeance. Furthermore, she is also a member of the Heavenly Court. Therefore she must die. Lin Ling took a sip of wine, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Everyone thought that they had left the city, so they were looking for them outside the city. At this time, the Lu family didn't have many masters, so it was a good time to rob them. As long as he obtained more cultivation resources, then Lin Ling wouldn't have to fear the half-sage realm. Hee, the experience of leaving Qingzhou is indeed exciting. Di Shirtian also drank a mouthful of wine, but there was a hint of arrogance in his eyes. A mighty dragon is no match for a local snake? They were ferocious dragons now. Lin Ling calmly drank his wine in the restaurant. For the time being, he didn't act rashly. After all, this wasn't Qingzhou, and the experts he faced were like gods. It was always right to be cautious. Finally, through the conversations of the people around him, Lin Ling confirmed that the head of the Lu family, Lu Shengyun, had left. As a result, the two figures slowly left the restaurant amidst the enthusiastic chatter of the crowd. Hee, even the half-saints of the Lu clan are on the move this time. Those two cockroaches won't be able to escape. Isn't that so? But I have to say, those 2 cockroaches are really bold. They even dared to provoke a saint. I'm impressed by their courage alone. It's admirable, but it's a pity that they still have to die. I estimate that the 2 cockroaches will be caught by dawn. The martial artists who did not know what was going on were talking amongst themselves. They had no idea that the 2 cockroaches they had been looking for had been drinking with them. If they knew about this, they would probably be even more shocked. Because they clearly had a way out, but they chose to stay in the tiger's den. This kind of action was simply beyond the imagination of humans. As for the Lu family, they were a huge force in Dragontooth City and also a branch of the Heavenly Court. The reason they were here was to recruit experts into the Heavenly Court. Therefore, with just the 4 words Heavenly Court branch, not to mention the nearby area, even in the 9 regions, there were not many people who dared to confront the Heavenly Court. Unless it was one of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils. Night came quietly. 2 figures approached the Lu family in the bustling streets. Their footsteps were silent, as if 2 death gods had returned from the underworld and were going to collect debts. The Lu family was grand and magnificent. Its entire body was made of white jade and gold stones. The gentle jade light had a little bit of golden light, which was very dazzling under the night sky. At the entrance of the Lu family, there was a tall statue. Everyone who passed by looked at the statue with worship in their eyes. Because that was the legendary deity, martial god Qilin. The title of martial god represented everything. He was also one of the recognized experts in the post-deity era. Martial god Qilin. At this moment, Lin Ling stopped and looked at the familiar yet strange statue. How many years had it been since he saw Tian Yanlin again? In the past, Tian Yanlin was just an ordinary person in a small valley. Later, he followed Li Xiaoyao and was guided by Li Xiaoyao. Today, he had become a famous figure in the 9 regions. Second brother. Seeing Lin Ling standing there in a daze, Sakura couldn't help but frown. This is your enemy. Lin Ling nodded. His gaze fell on the ancient sword in the hand of the statue. His eyes became colder. The true inheritance of the dark sword. That sword was Li Xiaoyao's sword. After Tian Yanlin framed Li Xiaoyao, he seized the sword and made it his own combat sword. So cold. Sakura stood beside Lin Ling. He felt a cold murderous intent. This was the first time he saw Lin Ling emit such a strong murderous intent. Of course, this murderous intent disappeared quickly. Sakura let out a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Lin Ling would be impulsive and destroy the statue. This would alert the enemy. At that time, it would be even more difficult for them to find Fairy Lu. Let's go in. Under the night sky, Lin Ling smiled calmly. After saying that, he strode toward the entrance. Who are you 2? There were experts on guard at the entrance. In fact, they had already seen Lin Ling and Sakura. However, they thought that Lin Ling was worshipping the statue of martial god Qilin, so they didn't stop him. What do you think? Lin Ling didn't stop walking. How dare you? The guards were stunned. They had asked for the identity of the 2 visitors, but the other party had asked them back. Wasn't this courting death? You guys can't afford to offend them. Sakura followed closely behind Lin Ling. He licked the corner of his mouth and revealed a bloodthirsty smile. Catch them. Phew. The guards finally shouted angrily. Whoosh. At this moment, a fist broke through the air as if the dragon god was roaring. The speed of this fist was incomparably fast. It didn't seem to have a lot of momentum, but it was mixed with unparalleled power. Moreover, the terrifying thing was that when the fist landed on the body of the guard in front, a wave of power actually passed through his body and spread to the rest of the guards, causing them to be frozen in place. It was as if they had turned into statues. Looking carefully, their eyes had already lost their luster. It was obvious that they were killed by a single punch. You guys, what's wrong? Phew. Only one person was still alive. At this moment, he said in panic. They're already dead. Phew. After Lin Ling made his move, it was naturally Sakura's turn. His big hand grabbed out, and when the last person was about to shout, he forcefully broke his neck. The 2 of them then stepped into the Lu family. Outside the door, other than the god whose neck was broken and thrown to the corner, the others were still standing in the same place as if they were still on guard. But in fact, they were all dead. The people on the way here didn't notice this unforeseen event. Instead, they felt that the Lu family's guard was really strict. The Lu family was very big. It was brightly lit and was extremely lively. In a loud and bright hall, Fairy Lou sat on the main seat, looking down at the people in front of her like a queen. The people in front of her were all handsome men and women. They were all around 16 years old. Not only were their figures tall and straight, even their appearances were first class. Damn it, those 2 cockroaches escaped. Number 36. Come here. I want to give you 300 whips. Fairy Lou wasn't as elegant as the rumors said. At this moment, she was like a fierce queen. Hearing her words, all the handsome men and women trembled subconsciously and looked at number 36 with sympathy. They were all Fairy Lou's slaves. To put it bluntly, they were also playthings. Chapter 30:12. Kill Fairy Lou. Smack. The sound of an electric whip rang out. Number 36 was a young man. At this moment, his entire body was trembling as blue electric snakes wreaked havoc all over his body. However, he gritted his teeth because he knew that if he made the slightest sound, he would be beaten to death and thrown into the well to feed the dogs. He had seen such things many times before. Damned cockroaches! Fairy Lou's ugly face was ferocious at this moment. She kept swinging her electric whip as if venting her anger. Originally, the people who were going to be whipped alive today were the 2 cockroaches. However, who knew that the cockroaches were lucky enough to escape again? Ah! Finally, the young man could not bear the pain and let out a weak cry. At this moment, the hall was silent. Everyone looked at him with sympathy. The young man's expression changed drastically. He kept kowtowing and said, "Fairy Lou, spare me, spare me. You seem to have forgotten the rules." Fairy Lou's expression became even more ferocious. "You must have been gloating before." "No, definitely not." The young man panicked even more. Unfortunately, what greeted him was a palm that landed on the top of his head. Blood flowed out of his head and he died completely. "Drag him out and feed him to the dogs," Fairy Lou said mercilessly. "Yes, Fairy Lou." Someone walked out trembling and dragged the dead young man to a corner outside the hall. There was a well there. The roars of ferocious beasts could be heard from it. They threw the body into the well. There was a 3-headed flaming hound inside. It was Fairy Lou's pet that ate human flesh. "I'm in a bad mood, very bad mood. If you can't make me happy, I'll beat you to death and feed you to the dogs." At this moment, Fairy Lou sat back down and put on a veil to cover her ugly face. Just by looking at her delicate body, she was indeed a first-class beauty. Unfortunately, all the handsome men and women had experienced Fairy Lou's viciousness. Therefore, in their eyes, Fairy Lou was like a scorpion. "Fairy Lou, you can make flowers lose their color and wither. You are the #1 beauty in the 9 states." Someone immediately flattered. Although he wanted to vomit, he had no choice but to suck up to her at this moment. Ordinary people wouldn't care about such vulgar flattery, but Fairy Lou enjoyed it very much. Therefore, she gradually smiled. Seeing this, everyone knew that Fairy Lou's mood had improved, so they all started to flatter her. "When it rains, your nose will be filled with water. When it rains, your face will be filled with pimples that are more dazzling than the stars in the night sky. When you stand on the street at night, you will be a star. And that huge mouth of yours, are you trying to compete with a toad? The most important thing is your yellow teeth. This is what puzzles me the most. Could it be that you grew up eating shit? That's why your teeth are so yellow?" At this moment, a sarcastic voice rang out in the hall, causing the hall to fall silent. Many people almost snickered because those words were too apartment. However, when they came to their senses, their expressions changed drastically. Someone actually dared to mock Fairy Lou for being ugly? Who is it? As expected, Fairy Lou, who had been slightly happy before, was now completely enraged. The veil was pulled off, revealing a face that would cause one to be unable to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. Blarg. At this moment, 2 men wearing large cloaks walked into the hall. One of them started to vomit in an extremely exaggerated manner. "Madam, I give in to you. Can you put on your veil? Your appearance really makes me want to vomit." That person waved his hand even more exaggeratedly. Fairy Lou didn't expect that these 2 people would not only call her ugly, but also vomit in front of her. This was worse than killing her. In her anger, she didn't have time to think about who these 2 people were and immediately pounced on them. The people in the hall were shocked. Who were these 2 people? They were crazy. Bang! Fairy Lu's attack could be said to be vicious and merciless. However, the person she was facing was not weak. He easily grabbed her arm and she couldn't resist at all. "You're courting death. My father will definitely kill you. You better kneel down and beg for mercy. Say I'm beautiful 100 times, 1,000 times. Otherwise, I'll feed you to the dogs." Fairy Lu still didn't know that a great disaster was about to befall her when her arm was grabbed. She ferociously roared. The two cloaked men looked at each other. One of them helplessly shook his head and said, "All right, I admit that I was wrong before." When these words were said, everyone thought that the two cloaked men regretted it. Fairy Lu raised her chin, waiting to hear the cloaked man's flattery. "In fact, after looking at you up close, your ugliness is beyond the horizon. Didn't you wash your face in the morning? Those eyes that are as big as mung beans even have eye boogers. Madam, please don't rape my eyes. It's not your fault that you're ugly, but it's your fault that you came out to scare people." The other cloaked man said exaggeratedly at this moment. If that was the case, it would only make things worse. Blarg. Fairy Lu was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. When had she ever been mocked like this? She immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the cloaked man in front of her immediately dodged, as if he was disgusted. "Even your blood stinks." Blarg. Fairy Lu spat out another mouthful of blood. She had completely lost her mind. "I'm going to kill you. No matter who you are, you're going to die." She went crazy and pounced at the two cloaked men, causing the handsome men and women in the hall to change their expressions greatly. In the past, there were people who mocked Fairy Lu for her ugliness, but it wasn't as exaggerated as these two today. However, in the end, that person's entire family was wiped out, and even 9 generations were implicated. Now, these two people were doing whatever they wanted. It felt good, but in the end, they couldn't escape death. Whoosh! The two cloaked men didn't block Fairy Lu's attack. Powerful realm essence blew away the brims of their hats. What was surprising was that the two people who came were very young. One was handsome and otherworldly, while the other was handsome and masculine. Just when everyone thought that these two people were dead, Fairy Lu was stunned. She stared at the two in disbelief. Everyone could even see that Fairy Lu's body was trembling. "It's you!" Fairy Lu looked as if she had seen a demon, and she quietly retreated. This was because she recognized them. Weren't these two people one of the 3 young men from a year ago? Why did they come to the Lu family? At this moment, no matter how stupid Fairy Lu was, she knew why these two people were here. "What do you want to do?" Fairy Lu no longer had the arrogance from before, and her voice was trembling. This shocked everyone. Since they knew Fairy Lu, this was the first time they had seen Fairy Lu reveal such an expression. "Kill you!" The two cloaked men looked at each other and spat out coldly at the same time. "No, my father is nearby." Fairy Lu kept retreating. She was very, very afraid. So what? Chapter 30:13. Bronze Chamber. "I was wrong, please spare my life." Fairy Lu knew that her father was not here, and no one could save her. She quickly knelt down. "I am indeed very ugly, but that is because my father mated with a dragon ape and gave birth to me. I should not have sent people to kill you. I was wrong, please spare me." Her voice floated out, and everyone was dumbfounded. Fairy Lu was actually the offspring of a human and a beast? Even Lin Ling's eyes focused. No wonder she was so ugly. However, this Fairy Lu's father was really desperate. He would not even let off an ape. "You asked us to spare your life, but if your father was here today, I don't know if you would spare our lives." Shaking his head, Lin Ling walked forward. In the past, Fairy Lu wanted to kill him, but because of Bailey Yenwu, he spared her life. However, who knew that this ugly woman would be so vicious and send people to kill them? Did she think that he, Lin Ling, was easy to bully? "Yes, I definitely will. You have to believe me." Fairy Lu raised her head, her ugly face full of sincerity. She also did not expect that the cockroach of the past would be able to threaten her life today. Everything was like a dream. Seeing this, Lin Ling smiled and shook his head again. "Unfortunately, I don't believe you. Of course, the most important thing is that you are too ugly. Staying in the world to harm people is better than dying." After saying this, Lin Ling decisively sent out a palm strike. The ferocious realm energy shook Fairy Lu to death. "Dead, dead." Dead. Seeing the fallen Fairy Lu, the surrounding people all fell silent. They were both excited and afraid. They were excited because this demoness was finally dead, and there was no need to torture them anymore. They were afraid that once the demoness died, the head of the Lu family would definitely be furious. You all should leave. Leave Dragon Tooth City immediately. Go. Lin Ling seemed to know that these people were innocent. He turned around and smiled at the youths. Benefactor, you want us to leave? Go. Hearing this, the eyes of the handsome men and women all became moist. No one knew how they had lived all these years. Hurry up and leave. If the head of the Lu family returns, with his temper, I'm afraid you all will be buried with him. Lin Ling said again. Everyone nodded gratefully. Some of them looked at Lin Ling and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, one of them said, Benefactor, this evil woman loves to kill people. After killing people, she feeds them to her dogs. I want to throw her to the dogs because my brother died in her hands. When they said this, the youth's eyes were filled with coldness. Fine, I'll feed the dogs then. It's best to leave some words in the hall. At least let the Lu clan master know where his daughter died. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Thank you, Benefactor. Those youths all rushed towards Fairy Lu, then spat at her, stepped on her corpse, grabbed her hair and rushed out of the hall. It was obvious that they had suffered a lot over the years, which was why they hated Fairy Lu so much. Benefactor, you should leave quickly too. A naked girl looked at Lin Ling and said. Her delicate body was extremely attractive, but Fairy Lu didn't let them wear clothes, so she was used to it. Seeing this, Lin Ling shook his head. He took off his cloak and covered the girl's body. The girl's face instantly turned red. There should be a lot of treasures in this Lu residence, so I don't want to leave yet. Lin Ling looked at the girl with a smile. She didn't know why, but those clear eyes and delicate face made the girl's heart beat wildly. Her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. If we're talking about treasures, I remember Miss said it's in the East Wing. Oh, then thank you. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes lit up. With a direction, he could save a lot of time searching for treasures. Then, he also took out some heavenly treasures and gave them to the girl. Then he took Sakura and went to the East Wing. Xiaoxiang, why aren't you leaving? At this moment, the girl was wearing Lin Ling's cloak. She was still in a daze as she recalled the smell of the cloak. Don't look. His world isn't something we can enter. We just need to remember this kind of genius in our hearts. The girl next to her guessed something. I know, but I really want to know his name. The eyes of the young girl in the large cloak were filled with hope. To her, being able to know the name of her benefactor was a great blessing. Let's go. However, she knew that this was just wishful thinking, so she put on the cloak and left the hall. At this moment, Lin Ling didn't know what the girl was thinking. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care because he was going to be hunted down by a half-saint. Therefore, even if he wanted to take the girl with him, he would implicate her. Moreover, he didn't plan to keep her. Who is it? Along the way to the East Wing, they met more and more strong people. I'm Lin Ling, the person your master is looking for. Billowing flames appeared on the surface of Lin Ling's body. He was like a star in the night. What? Didn't you leave the city? Without any suspense, everyone was shocked. Their expressions were as if they had seen a ghost. An old man reacted. We've been fooled, our master has been fooled. When ordinary people encounter the pursuit of a half-saint expert, their first choice would be to leave the half-saint expert. Therefore, they thought Lin Ling's first choice would be to escape into the ancient forest. Who would have thought that Lin Ling would go the opposite way, causing everyone to be fooled? I can only say that your master is too stupid. Lin Ling sneered. He took a step and the world-devouring beast and the dragon god's bone burst out. He punched those strong people. Boom, boom, boom. Once he attacked, no one could stop him unless they were at the peak of the martial immortal realm. Sakura laughed loudly. He also attacked. He turned into a skeleton and pierced through the night. A halberd appeared in his hand. He waved it and took a life. At this moment, no one in the entire Lu family could stop Lin Ling and Sakura. In the end, the ground of the Lu family was dyed red with blood. Lin Ling and Sakura strode forward. Not long after, they arrived at the East Wing. It was a sealed secret room made of bronze. There were runes flashing on the surface. Obviously, it was a profound barrier. You two are really bold. I, the Reverend King, have cultivated for 13,000 years. This is the first time I've seen the younger generation provoking a half-saint like you. However, in front of the bronze secret room, an old man sat cross-legged. There were a lot of chains on his body, so he couldn't leave the secret room 10 meters away. The Reverend King was a strong person in Jojo. After he was defeated by Lu Shangyun, he promised to guard the secret room for the rest of his life. In exchange, Lu Shangyun spared his family. This was an expert at the peak of the martial immortal realm. Senior, are you really going to stop us? Lin Ling could see that the Reverend King was not hostile to them. However, he didn't allow them to enter the bronze secret room. He was the guardian of the treasure. My two little friends, your talents are good. In the future, you will definitely be outstanding. Why do you want to challenge the half-saint realm when your cultivation is not high? I advise you to leave immediately. If Lu Shangyun returns, I'm afraid you will stay here forever. Lu Shangyun is the disciple of the Heavenly Court's martial god. His strength should not be underestimated. Chapter 30:14. The Guardian of the Treasure at the Peak of the Martial Immortal Realm. Thank you for reminding me. May I ask, after defeating you, can we enter the secret room? Lin Ling smiled and said lightly, after defeating me, you have the qualification to enter, but it does not mean that you can enter. Moreover, there is not much time left for you because before dawn, Lu Shangyun will be back. Thank you, Senior. Before dawn, this time is enough. Lin Ling and Di Shirtian looked at each other, their eyes full of fighting spirit. Peak of the martial immortal realm, this was their first battle. Rumble. Di Shirtian took the lead to attack. The halberd in his hand was mixed with the power of the universe and attacked the old man. Heavenly Sharp 5 Elements Chain. The old man was surprised, but he soon calmed down. He waved his right hand, and the chain under him moved like a snake and collided with Di Shirtian's halberd. Ka-ka-ka. The chain seemed soft, but it was mixed with the power of the universe and blocked Di Shirtian's halberd. Rank power. Di Shirtian's face suddenly changed, but the more he fought, the fiercer he became. He waved his halberd, and the aura of the underworld was extremely strong. Little friend, your talent is very good, but unfortunately, your realm is too low. In the past, I was also an emperor-level genius in the 9 regions, but I lost to other geniuses and declined. Today, I will teach you a lesson. Maybe you are very extraordinary in your hometown, but there are many geniuses in the 9 regions, descendants of gods, the bloodlines of the 100 regions, and the 10 ferocious of the 9 regions. These rising stars with powerful origins have advantages beyond your imagination. The old man waved the chain again, and it was impenetrable. Di Shirtian could not shake his opponent for a while, and he became more and more anxious, because dawn was getting closer and closer. Senior, I am also going to attack. Seeing this, Lin Ling's face became dignified. Let's attack together. I am at the peak of the martial immortal realm. It is not shameful for the two of you to join hands, the old man said with a smile. His tattered clothes gave off the feeling of an otherworldly expert. However, he was not hostile to Lin Ling and Lu Shangyun. On the contrary, he admired them because Lu Shangyun was also his enemy. Although Lu Shangyun promised to let his people go, he knew later that Lu Shangyun had gone back on his word and wiped out his family. At that time, he wanted to resist, but unfortunately, he was chained up. Now he had been chained up for 8,000 years. Rumble. Lin Ling attacked again, and the realm-swallowing beast appeared. Desolate body. The old man's expression became serious. He waved the chain, and like a law of the universe, it slammed towards Lin Ling. 10% of rank power. The chain instantly appeared in front of Lin Ling and wrapped around his arm like a snake. He couldn't shake it off for a moment and felt a sharp pain in his arm. He knew that it was rank power. Only this kind of power could hurt his body. However, although his talent wasn't strong, his martial arts experience was not weak. Again, Lin Ling's battle intent became stronger. The dragon bone appeared, and the dragon god roared. What? Double talent? And it is also a desolate body. It is the dragon god. Boy, you are going to transform into a dragon. This time the old man exclaimed. It was the first time he had seen a junior with 2 desolate body talents. After the dragon bone appeared, Lin Ling's strength increased greatly. He shook off the chain in his hand and threw a punch at the old man. Hee, I've been here for 8,000 years, and I've been trying to comprehend the rank of a martial art. How could my rank be weak? After the old man recovered from his shock, he smiled faintly. His body shook, and the chains that bound him buzzed. Under the vibration, the whole Dragon Tooth city shook. Upon closer inspection, the chains passed through his collarbone, meridians, and dantian. No wonder he was controlled by Lu Shengyun. He wanted to resist, but he couldn't. At this moment, the mysterious chains formed an 8 trigrams array and blocked Lin Ling's punch. At the same time, Sakra's halberd also arrived and attacked the 8 trigrams chain array. At this moment, the old man's face became serious. These two boys were as fierce as tigers. However, their realms were still a little weak. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to stop these two today. 20% of rank power. With no intention of hiding his strength, the old man shouted and let the 8 trigrams chain array's light soar into the sky. The power of the universe completely merged with his talent. What was more frightening was that his true god martial spirit had reached the state of the 4th seal. It was incomparably powerful in all aspects. Comprehending a martial art rank in 8,000 years was not something an ordinary person could endure. Only a martial arts fanatic could. Because of the stubbornness of a martial arts fanatic, he could achieve greater results in martial arts. Second brother, there is not much time left. After attacking for a long time without success, Sakura became more and more anxious. I should use all my strength. Yes. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. The fusion of the 4 dantians actually suppressed the 8 trigrams chain array and deformed it. What a troublesome guy. Yes. The more the old man fought, the more surprised he was. He knew that he had underestimated these two, especially the blue-robed junior. He was obviously not an ordinary person. Time is getting shorter. Yes. However, the old man still blocked Lin Ling and Lu Shengyun's attacks, so he reminded them again. Senior, you lost. Sigh. Seeing this, Lin Ling also looked at the sky and floated back. Previously, he only wanted to experience how strong 20% of the rank power was. Now, he had a preliminary understanding. Unfortunately, he also wanted to continue fighting, but time waited for no one. I lost. Brat, don't talk big. Sigh. Hearing Lin Ling's words, the old man couldn't help but laugh. I think you have reached your limit. You can't defeat me at all. However, you don't have to belittle yourself. With your strength, you can be considered one of the top geniuses in the spirit province. Sigh. I never talk big. Sigh. The corner of Lin Ling's mouth outlined a confident smile. His right hand finally touched the scabbard behind him. The scabbard was currently Lin Ling's strongest trump card. The reason why he didn't use it at the beginning was that he didn't want to rely too much on this heaven-defying existence. In the space, a wisp of demonic chi began to spread out. It was cold and sharp. Time seemed to be frozen. Sakura was stunned. He felt that he had lost contact with everything around him, as if the space had become gray. The old man's reaction was even more intense. A trace of uneasiness rose in his heart. My head, where is it? God. Suddenly, the voice of an ancient god sounded. An ancient figure appeared behind Lin Ling. His clothes fluttered in the wind, as if he was a demon god who had fought with the gods. What is this? God. The old man's expression changed greatly. Even someone as powerful as him was panicking. However, at this moment, sword light appeared, sparkling and resplendent. Chapter 30:15. The Dragon Monument. Rank power. The old man shouted in horror. Then he laughed bitterly. He knew that he was dead for sure. That was because the sword gave him the feeling that it contained 20% of rank power, and it was even stronger than ordinary rank power. It was most likely a power passed down by a god. On top of that, the youth's fleshly body was powerful, his realm essence was rich, and his talent was heaven-defying. With all these factors added together, he knew that this sword strike could kill him. I have no regrets dying to this sword strike. I had originally thought that only a half-saint could kill me, but today, a junior at the 4th level of the martial immortal realm is capable of killing me as well. The younger generation surpasses the older generation, the younger generation surpasses the younger generation. The old man said with a smile before he died. Clang. With a slash of the sword, it severed the universe. All of the chains were cut off. However, just as the old man thought that he was going to die, the sword disappeared. When he came to his senses, he saw that the chains that had bound him for 8,000 years had all been severed by the sword. This unforeseen event left him dumbfounded. "You are free." Lin Ling sheathed his sword and calmly walked over. "I am free," the old man muttered to himself. The word freedom sounded simple, but to him, it was like an extravagant dream. He had never thought that he would be free one day. Most importantly, the people who saved him were actually two mysterious juniors. "You also broke the supreme treasure." Then the old man said word by word, his face full of fear. "Don't block the way, time is running out." However, who would have thought that Lin Ling didn't mention that stunning sword strike? It was as if he didn't feel that it was something to be proud of. Instead, he said somewhat speechlessly. This made the old man smile bitterly and quickly stood up. However, perhaps because he hadn't stood up for a long time, he almost fell down. However, Sakura laughed and quickly helped the old man up. Although this senior had stopped them, he had repeatedly let them leave. This was also because he was worried about them. Moreover, this senior had also continuously taught them martial arts. This had left a good impression on Lin Ling and Li Chia. "I am the Reverend King. Young friends, although I will not stop the two of you, there is a spirit formation seal on this room. Only a world spiritist can break through it. Furthermore, even a gold-cloaked world spiritist might not be able to break through it." The old man was grateful to Lin Ling for cutting off the chains that bound him. Because of this, he also tried to persuade him. However, as soon as his voice fell, a rumbling sound came from ahead. Those ancient symbols were scattering. "How difficult is it? Now it's done." At the same time, an indifferent voice floated in the air. "Oh my God!" The old man's eyes almost popped out. One had to know that he had seen Lu Shengyun set up this barrier with his own eyes. It had taken him 3 years to set it up, but the little brat in front of him had broken it in the blink of an eye. Wasn't it said that breaking a spirit formation was more difficult than setting one up? Moreover, Lu Shengyun's spirit formation was said to have come from the heavenly court. It was taught by martial god Qilin in the post-deity era. There were very few people in the world who could break it. This little brat had easily broken the spirit formation. This made the old man suspect that this spirit formation was fake. He could not help but stare at Lin Ling. He wanted to see what Lin Ling's expression would be. However, Lin Ling's expression was very calm. It was as if breaking the spirit formation was as simple as drinking water. "Oh my God! Where did these two little brats come from?" The old man almost fainted from shock. However, Lin Ling had already strode into the secret room. Although the spirit formation outside the secret room was more difficult than ascending to the heavens for others, it was a pity that Lin Ling could break it with a wave of his hand. This was because this spirit formation was taught to martial god Qilin by Li Xiaoyao. Unfortunately, after martial god Qilin taught it to Lu Shengyun, the spirit formation had changed. If martial god Qilin was here, Lin Ling would have slapped him 3 times. This spirit formation was too bad. It was a disgrace to Li Xiaoyao. After entering the secret room, Lin Ling's eyes lit up when he saw the treasures in the room. There were a lot of imperial crystals. Moreover, there were many supreme weapons. Lin Ling even saw the jade talismans that he had obtained in the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Of course, in addition to those jade talismans, there was also the Thunder Divine Grade Jade Talisman. It could erupt with the power of rank. It was extremely terrifying. However, it was a one-time use item. In fact, this kind of powerful jade talisman consumed a lot of materials. The real powerhouses disdained to use it. Generally, it was used by the weak or by the sons of the ancient families to save their lives. "Brother, collect all the jade talismans," Lin Ling said quickly. He found that there were more than 20 jade talismans. He thought that Lu Shengyun was reluctant to use them, so he kept them here. However, all of them benefited Lin Ling. "Haha, second brother, I like this shield." After collecting the jade talismans, Sakura immediately picked up a white bone shield. This shield was extraordinary and emitted a divine light. Second grade supreme weapon. It seems to be made from the bones of divine beasts. Lin Ling could not help but admire Sakura's foresight. Outside the secret room, the Reverend King was dumbfounded as he looked at Lin Ling and Lu Shengyun. He suddenly felt sympathy for Lu Shengyun. He knew that Lu Shengyun would touch these treasures every day. He was reluctant to use them and kept them as part of his collection. However, all of them were now benefiting these two brats. Second brother, what kind of flower is this? It's so beautiful. There are 7 different colored flowers on a single stalk of grass. This is a rare great omen flower. Legend has it that it can bring good luck to people. Another function is to accelerate the breakthrough of the divine physique and reach the desolate physique. Brother, pluck it and eat all of these flowers. Okay. Sakura laughed excitedly. 2 little ancestors, you can't pluck all of these flowers. Otherwise they will wither. We have to leave one behind. The Reverend King felt an inexplicable heartache. It's fine. This flower loves the soil very much. After it grows here, it won't be able to grow in other places. It will wither sooner or later. Since we can't take it away, let's just pluck it. Lin Ling shook his head indifferently. The Reverend King's eyes twitched. These 2 bandits. He could imagine that when Lu Shengyun returned and saw this scene, he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. This is a stone tablet. It's the dragon tablet. Lin Ling continued to collect treasures. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. There was a broken stone tablet lying in the corner. His face was filled with joy. Lu Shengyun obtained this stone tablet in the ruins of the gods. He never saw its use. How do you know it's the dragon tablet? The Reverend King exclaimed. What kind of foresight does Lu Shengyun have? How can he compare with me? Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed disdainfully. From a certain point of view, Lu Shengyun was just his grand disciple. The most precious thing in the secret chamber is this stone tablet. It's one of the 8 tablets of the dragon clan. It's a pity that it's broken. Lin Ling walked forward and activated his 10,000 mammoths' demonic eyes. He examined the stone tablet, and his expression became more and more interesting. Calamity-destroying bow, a divine ability of the dragon clan. Chi! The Reverend King sucked in a breath of cold air. The dragon race was one of the most mysterious races in the primordial chaos. All of the dragon gods gathered there were dragon gods, and their divine abilities were priceless treasures. Young friend, you have the aura of a dragon god. I'm afraid you can also cultivate this divine ability. Chapter 30:16. Lu Shengyun had returned. However, Lin Ling didn't need him to say anything. His 10,000 mammoths' devil eyes were fixed on the stone steel as he divined. Because the stone tablet was damaged, it would take some time for Lin Ling to deduce its contents. Moreover, the ancient symbols on the surface of the stone tablet seemed to be motionless, but they were mixed with a mysterious melody, making it difficult for anyone to remember them with a single glance. Lin Ling's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. The 10,000 mammoth demonic eyes had always been heaven-defying, but now it was being challenged. Most importantly, he didn't have much time left. Young friend, the sky is starting to brighten. The Reverend King's expression grew increasingly grave. Sakura had already collected all the treasures and was now waiting for Lin Ling. Wait a little longer. Why don't you leave first, Reverend King? After all, you're free now. My family has been destroyed by Lu Shengyun, and I've been trapped for 8,000 years. I don't know where to go now, so I'll help you if I can. Thank you, Reverend King. That won't be necessary. On the other hand, your friend needs to speed up. The 2 of them were burning with anxiety. If Lu Shengyun, a half-saint, returned, it would be a tough battle. With their current strength, they could not stop Lu Shengyun. The purple light is here. I think Lu Shengyun has returned to the city. After an unknown period of time, the Reverend King finally left the secret chamber and looked into the distance. Come on. At the same time, a voice rang out from behind him. Lin Ling walked out of the private chamber, looking a bit tired. He smiled. The Reverend King couldn't help but be delighted. You succeeded? Let's get out of here. Lin Ling decided not to mention the stone tablet for the time being. Then, he left the mansion without stopping. The mansion was silent and filled with the smell of blood. When the 3 of them walked out of the mansion, they were greeted by a large number of strong warriors. The leader was majestic and had an extraordinary momentum. He was Lu Shengyun. They had spent the entire night searching for Lin Ling and his companion, but unfortunately, their search was fruitless. Now, they had returned to rest temporarily. Lin Ling and the other two swaggered past Lu Shengyun, which made Lu Shengyun frown slightly. The three people who walked past him gave him a very strange feeling. However, among the three people, two were wearing large cloaks, and one was wearing a blue and white robe. He couldn't remember who they were. In the end, because he missed his daughter, he quickened his pace and returned to the Lu family. Hee, that must be Lu Shengyun. When he comes home, I wonder if he will be surprised by the gift we gave him. Within the bustling crowd, Lin Ling and the other two had already blended in quickly. Sakura turned around to take a look and couldn't help but laugh mischievously. I don't think they'll be surprised. Instead, they'll remember us as cockroaches forever. Lin Ling also smiled faintly. The Reverend King followed Lin Ling and his companion. Previously, when Lu Shengyun looked at them, he was afraid of being discovered, so he was very nervous. However, he noticed that Lin Ling and his companion were calm, even calmer than him. This made him feel a little ashamed. These two guys must have done a lot of earth-shattering things, so they could be so calm. However, although Lin Ling and his companion were calm, they knew that they couldn't stay here for long, so they also strode out of Dragon Tooth City. At this moment, Lu Shengyun had already arrived at the gate of the mansion. How dare you? Our lord is back, and you don't even salute him. Master! The expert next to Lu Shengyun suddenly shouted angrily, because the guards outside the gate were motionless like statues. Oh no, they're all dead. Lu Shengyun looked at the few people indifferently. Suddenly, he frowned slightly. He instantly found that there was something wrong with the guards. What? The other experts' faces changed greatly. Someone dared to kill the guards of the Lu family. This was beyond their imagination. Let's go in and have a look. Lu Shengyun felt that something was wrong, and he quickly strode into the mansion. The mansion was silent, so silent that it made people's hearts palpitate. The experts who followed Lu Shengyun all looked dignified. They had been in the Lu family for many years, but this was the first time they saw the Lu family so quiet. Follow me. Lu Shengyun's face became even more dignified, like a dark cloud shrouding the place. As they continued forward, they saw the corpses on the ground, and the blood flowed like a river. Who is so bold? Seeing this, one of the old men couldn't help but shout angrily. Because the people who stayed in the Lu family were all dead, this was a direct provocation to the Lu family. However, Lu Shengyun didn't care about the dead people. His pace kept increasing, and his heart began to roar. All kinds of thoughts arose in his mind. Could it be that the intruder knew that he wasn't at home, so they did whatever they wanted in his house? Moreover, he hoped that the treasures were fine. However, those treasures were guarded by the Reverend King, and with the enchantment that Lu Shengyun had set up, the treasures should be fine. As he walked quickly, Lu Shengyun quietly smiled. It turned out that he was worried for nothing. However, when he reached the east wing, that smile froze on his face. Because the huge bronze secret room's door was now open, and it was violently opened. There were broken chains on the ground, and the Reverend King was nowhere to be seen. No! Lu Shengyun roared, and rushed into the secret room like the wind. However, the empty secret room stunned him. Because all the treasures were gone. Only two treasures were left. One was the supreme giant flower, but it had withered. The other was the mysterious stone tablet, but it was now broken. Puff! Lu Shengyun spat out a mouthful of blood, and it splashed on the bronze wall like a bright flower. Sir! The other experts also arrived, and when they saw the scene in front of them, they all gasped in surprise. Gone. Everything was gone. What kind of monster was this? Even the supreme giant flower was not spared. This person was too despicable. For a moment, the experts fell silent. They knew that Sir Lu treated the treasures in the secret room as second to his life. Now that his reverse scale had been plucked, they could imagine how Sir Lu felt. Who is it? Could it be the Reverend King? It can't be him, because he can't break the enchantment of the bronze secret room. Which bastard dares to rob our Lu residence when Sir Lu is not here? The experts discussed animatedly. Lu Shengyun's mouth was overflowing with blood, and his mind was filled with anger. How many years had it been since he became martial god Qilin's last disciple? This was the first time he had suffered such a great loss. Who is it? He calmed down and kept thinking. Suddenly, his pupils trembled violently. It's them, he said solemnly. His words made the experts stop talking and look at Lu Shengyun. They also wanted to know who had humiliated Sir Lu. It's those two young men. Lu Shengyun was indeed the head of the Heavenly Court's branch. After thinking carefully, he already had a guess. In Dragon Tooth City, even the 100 Lane clan did not dare to provoke him. Only those two people dared to, and they were the cockroaches he had mentioned. Chapter 30:17. The sage-to-be was furious. My lord, it's impossible. Shouldn't they have escaped from Dragon Tooth City? Someone asked incredulously. Those two had already guessed our thoughts and knew that we would definitely go out of the city to plunder. Therefore, they had been hiding in the city and used our departure as an excuse to turn our nest upside down. They even purposely let out news to make us think that they had escaped from Dragon Tooth City. Lu Shengyun said word by word. After hearing his explanation, the experts gasped again. The two young men were really terrifying. They knew their every move. No, it should be said that they were toyed with in the palm of their hands. Oh no, Xian. Lu Shengyun suddenly thought of something and his face changed again. There were only 3 most precious things in his life. The first was his master, martial god Qilin, the second was the bronze secret room, and the last was Lu Xian. Miss. Everyone came to their senses and rushed to Lu Xian's residence. They kept shouting in their hearts. Miss must be fine. Otherwise, they did not know how angry Lu Shengyun would be. When they arrived at Lu Xian's residence, they were disappointed by what they saw. Because there wasn't a single person here. Lu Xian had disappeared. My lord, look at these words. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, causing Lu Shengyun to take a step forward. He arrived in front of the words written in blood, but it was still a shocking sight. Lu Xian's whereabouts were written in the words. She was dead. Most importantly, she had been thrown to the dogs. A dignified half-saint expert's daughter had been thrown to the dogs. This caused everyone to be flabbergasted. Xian. Lu Shengyun roared and rushed to the ancient well outside the hall. He immediately saw the body under the ancient well. It was being bitten by 3 vicious dogs. Judging from the clothes, it was undoubtedly Lu Xian. What a sin! The others also arrived at the ancient well. Their hearts were still trembling. Lu Xian had caught many people to feed the dogs over the years. Now, she had also ended up being fed to the dogs. Such an encounter was undoubtedly a huge blow to Lu Shengyun. I'm going to kill them. Lu Shengyun was stunned at the edge of the ancient well. Then, blood spurted out of his mouth as if it was free of charge. He went crazy. He had lost 2 of the 3 most precious things in his life. Sir, please calm down. It was the first time for everyone to see Lu Shengyun so angry. However, everyone's persuasion was obviously useless. Lu Shengyun let out a roar that shook Dragon Tooth City. Everyone in Dragon Tooth City was like cicadas in winter. The wrath of a half-saint almost made them kneel down. Boom! Then the ground cracked open, and a figure shot up into the sky, rushing towards the direction of the ancient forest. By the way, there were 3 people who brushed past us earlier. At that time, I felt that one of them was very familiar. He seemed to have the aura of the Reverend King, but I didn't think too much about it at the time. Could it be that he was one of those 3? A cold-looking man suddenly said. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Then their eyes turned red with anger. It turned out that the murderer had walked right past them, and they hadn't noticed him at all. They were so stupid. Chase. Then, the crowd rushed out of Dragon Tooth City one after another. A large number of powerhouses were dispatched, which also led to a drastic change in Dragon Tooth City. At this moment, Lin Ling and the other 2 were rushing through the ancient forest, startling the birds. However, at this moment, Lin Ling looked back, and his face suddenly turned cold. He said lightly, "This Lu Shengyun is indeed a half-saint powerhouse. He really has some tricks up his sleeve. He noticed us in such a short time." Hearing this, the faces of Sakura and the Reverend King changed greatly. A half-saint powerhouse had arrived? Die! In just a moment, the clouds above the sky were separated. Like the sound of Buddha, a rolling momentum forcibly swept through the ancient forest, rushing towards Lin Ling. Leave quickly. The Reverend King knew how terrifying Lu Shengyun's strength was, so he said anxiously. It's too late. However, Lin Ling didn't leave. He stood quietly on the ground, because he knew it was too late to leave now. Sure enough, dark clouds began to condense in the sky. Then, the dark clouds exploded, and thunder rumbled, bombarding the earth. A gentle middle-aged man appeared in the sky. He looked down at the three people on the ground like a saint, and the murderous intent in his eyes was revealed without any concealment. "You two cockroaches! You killed my daughter and robbed my Lu family. I'm going to tear off all your limbs and turn you into my dolls." The loud voice, with malice and ferocity, spread throughout the ancient forest. In a distant place, the warriors of Dragontooth City looked into the distance. They seemed to have guessed something, and they were all terrified. Those two young men were really bold. "Lu Shengyun, your daughter is vicious. She killed people and fed them to the dogs. Now, we are just returning what she did to her." "Kill!" Seeing Lu Shengyun, the Reverend King's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He and Lu Shengyun had been holding back for many years, but this time, he couldn't bear it anymore. "Old man, get out of my way!" Roar! Lu Shengyun roared ferociously. His right hand pulled behind his back, and the wind and clouds were pulled by him, forming a huge lightning halberd and throwing it at the Reverend King. Rumble! As soon as the lightning halberd was thrown, its rank power reached 30%. The vast forest instantly exploded, turning into ashes. The Reverend King's face changed greatly. He also urged his rank power to resist the lightning halberd. Then, with a rumbling sound, the Reverend King on the ground temporarily blocked the lightning halberd, but he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. This resistance was obviously only temporary. "Lu Shengyun, you can't do whatever you want." Roar! Seeing this, Sakura roared. He knew that he was no match for Lu Shengyun, so he activated the bone shield he got from the secret room. At the same time, his right hand waved out 3 jade talismans. As soon as the jade talismans appeared, a mysterious power bloomed. Wind, fire and mountains appeared, all of which were rank powers. It was like a god had arrived, protecting the Reverend King from the lightning halberd in the sky. Rumble! With the addition of the new power, the pressure on the Reverend King's defense was greatly reduced. Undoubtedly, Lu Shengyun was once again roaring with anger because he had spent countless efforts to obtain those jade talismans. He was reluctant to use them, and even his daughter did not leave a few for her. But now, they were all taken advantage of by these bastards. "Go to hell!" His big hand was like the chaos of the universe. It ruthlessly pressed down, and the rank power of the 3 jade talismans was destroyed as easily as tofu. Boom! Chapter 30:18. Forcefully resisting a half-saint. The half-saint realm was indeed terrifying. At the same time, the powerhouses of the Lu clan arrived one after another. They surrounded the area with bloodshot eyes, as if they were determined to kill Lin Ling and the other two. For a moment, Lin Ling and the other two were unable to escape even if they grew wings. "What's your name?" Lu Shengyun said as he looked at Lin Ling with a sinister gaze. He noticed that after his arrival, the blue-robed young man's expression had not changed at all. He was neither panicked nor nervous, and he did not even try to help the Reverend King and King Mu. Such an expression made him even more uncomfortable. Of course, this also made Lu Shengyun feel quite surprised. Such a calm junior. No wonder they were all fooled. "Lin Ling." At this moment, Lin Ling raised his head and said indifferently, "Why did you kill my daughter? Why did you rob my Lu family?" Lu Shengyun said word by word. He had 100 questions in his mind. With the young man's cultivation, he really shouldn't have provoked the Lu family. Anyone with a brain wouldn't have done that. "Your daughter killed us first," Lin Ling said calmly. "She wants to kill you, so you should be killed by her. Who told you to resist?" Lu Shengyun's eyes were full of cold light. He, as expected, a crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. Like father, like daughter. But what surprised me is that you really dote on your daughter. Wasn't your daughter born from the union between you and an animal? Hearing this, the sneer on the corner of Lin Ling's mouth became even thicker, and his mocking voice floated out. This brat is about to die, yet he still dares to spout such nonsense. Hearing the mocking words, the warriors of the Lu family all turned pale. They all looked at Lu Shengyun. Sure enough, the murderous intent on his face had reached its peak. "Little bastard, I'm going to tear your mouth apart." Lu Shengyun laughed. It was a crazy laugh. This was also the first time in his life that he had felt killing intent toward a martial immortal level person of the younger generation. Furthermore, it was an intense killing intent. Thunder, come. He raised his right arm high, and rolling realm essence rushed out, forming a thundercloud in his palm, mixed with an incomparably violent power. He slapped it fiercely toward Lin Ling. His talent was the rare thundercloud talent, known as the Supreme Thundercloud Gathering Talent. His master had found it in a godly ruin and gifted it to him. According to legend, it was the Thunder God's art technique art. Lu Shengyun and Emperor by Lu Shengyun, 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 Shengyun realm, Shengyun, 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 Shengyun Genjian, Shengyun when he was, he, Sheng then, he, Shengyun. Shengling's it Shengyun to Shengto Shengyun. Time and space divine steel, realm devouring beast, dragon god, 4 elements fusion. Lin Ling spoke in a low voice. His aura climbed higher and higher. The body of a fiend god descended, a giant mouth appeared, a dragon god roared, causing the ancient forest and 10,000 dragons to tremble. At this moment, a vast amount of world essence, in addition to the power of the universe, crazily condensed on his fist, causing him to shoot up into the sky like an arrow. All kinds of illusions appeared, causing the reverent king's expression to change greatly. When this guy fought me, he obviously did not use 120% of his strength. Rumble. At this moment, the huge thundercloud palm in the sky smashed down, and the earth god demon fist soared into the sky. In addition to the suppression of the time and space divine steel, it caused the ancient forest to tumble. A large number of huge trees that several people could wrap their arms around were tumbling in the sky at this moment. In the distance, the warriors of the Dragon Tooth City who came to watch were all flipped over. The weak ones even vomited blood, and their expressions changed greatly. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. Lin Ling's body was constantly pushed back by the enormous force, and his body was constantly being destroyed. However, his god-demon body was constantly healing his injuries. It was only when he was completely smashed into the ground that the destructive force disappeared. A huge hole thousands of miles wide appeared in the ground. Beside the huge hole, thunder and lightning roared like snakes, sealing the hole. He's dead, many people said with serious expressions. The anger of a half-saint was indeed terrifying. Haha, is this all there is to a half-saint? However, in the next moment, a figure shot out from the huge hole like a javelin. He ignored the thunder and lightning around him and looked indifferently at Lu Shengyun in the sky. This unforeseen event shocked all the warriors of the Dragon Tooth City. A martial immortal had actually blocked the attack of a half-saint? That was too heaven-defying. Heavens, his defense is even more terrifying than I imagined. The Reverend King was also dumbfounded. In his opinion, after Lu Shengyun arrived, the 3 of them would be powerless to resist. However, who would have thought that the most mysterious young man would actually block Lu Shengyun's attack? It had to be said that this was an earth-shattering pride. Lu Shengyun didn't use his true strength. Moreover, although my second brother's defense is strong, it won't last long. In contrast to the Reverend King's shock, Sakura said with a serious expression. In fact, Lin Ling also knew this. At present, he was still no match for a half-saint. However, the arrow was already knocked on the bow, and it had to be released. Old man, do you know why I'm targeting you? First, your daughter wants to kill me. Second, you're from the heavenly court. Lin Ling floated up. His robe fluttered, and his long hair danced wildly like a demon. Bastard, I'll tear you apart alive. Lu Shengyun was also surprised by Lin Ling's strength. It could be said that he had seen countless mid-martial immortals. However, Lin Ling had surprised him the most. Without a doubt, Lin Ling was definitely a peerless genius. However, the hatred of his daughter's death was absolutely irreconcilable. Therefore, no matter what, this Lin Ling had to die. He absolutely had to die. Tear me apart alive? You're not qualified. Your master is still a little qualified. However, it won't be long before your master becomes a ghost under my sword. Lin Ling sneered. His hands began to form complicated seals. An ancient aura began to spread out. It was like a barrier that sealed the entire ancient forest. Once this aura was released, everyone was shocked. People felt a strong pressure. It was as if they were seeing the arrival of an ancient god. Even Lu Shengyun's expression changed slightly. This cockroach's methods were really endless. Even with his experience, he couldn't see what the young man was using. I see that the people of this world are walking on the boundless earth. They don't know what's going on. 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 Even if they have 1,000 gene of gold, they don't know the poverty of the forest. A faintly discernible voice floated out from Lin Ling's mouth. It was like the sound of a Buddhist bell. It entered everyone's ears and gave them a sense of eternal holiness. What is this? The Reverend King's expression changed greatly. The Lin Ling before him gave him a feeling that he was sacred and inviolable. Dragon Clan, 8 stone steel. Chapter 30:19. God shooting dragon bow. Could it be that stone tablet? That's impossible, right? He just finished reading the stone tablet not long ago, and now he's learned it? Hearing this, the Reverend King's eyes filled with terror. What kind of monstrous comprehension ability was this? They knew the origin of Lin Ling's incantation, but Lu Shengyun didn't know. He only had a feeling that the young man at this moment seemed to have turned into a guardian dragon god. His master's words suddenly came to mind. In the chaos of the universe, the dragon race had 8 divisions. Among them were the Buddha, the dragon god, and the dragon god. They were extremely terrifying existences. Why does this brat have such a divine ability? Thinking of this, Lu Shengyun's face changed greatly. He didn't dare to delay any longer. He immediately urged his powerful realm essence, wanting to completely kill Lin Ling before Lin Ling's divine ability was formed. In truth, he didn't know how powerful the spell would be once it was formed. However, he had an intuition that its power was absolutely not to be underestimated. At this moment, the halberd of thunder appeared, accompanied by the sound of thunder. It destroyed everything in its path. Most likely, no martial immortal expert would be able to block those lightning halberds. The 8 tribe stone steels of the Dragon Clan must have the Dragon Bone, Dragon Blood, and Dragon Soul as the foundation. With the Dragon Bone, I am the Dragon God of Freedom. Lin Ling muttered to himself. He could feel the bones in his body emitting cracking sounds. Strands of mysterious energy swam out and poured into his left palm. He had never seen this mysterious power before, but he knew that it was very strong. However, it seemed that Lu Shengyun did not intend to let Lin Ling use this kind of power. Therefore, his right hand touched the scabbard, and his essence quietly poured into the tyrannical Song sword. However, what left Lin Ling surprised was that even though the dragon bone strength was isolated, it still poured into his left hand, causing it to become as warm and smooth as jade. As expected of the Dragon Clan's 8-division stone tablet. It's fighting with the scabbard for the power of the dragon bone, and even the scabbard can't beat it. Lin Ling thought to himself as he raised his head. The lightning halberd in the sky had already arrived. Its power was so strong that it could probably crush the entire Qing province into pieces. Sir, there was no time to lose. Lin Ling drew his sword. He had to grasp this final moment. The headless elder instantly appeared behind him. Demonic energy surged as if he was going to slaughter the world. What is this? Lin Ling's means had undoubtedly surprised Lu Shengyun once again. This was because he realized that apart from the divine ability that Lin Ling was using, even his sword gave him a feeling that he could not underestimate it. At this moment, the sword appeared, sparkling and resplendent. A sword light slashed towards the sky, causing time to seem to freeze. Boom! Boom! In the next moment, all the lightning halberds froze in place before exploding and falling to the ground. Good heavens! This guy is a monster. Seeing this, whether it was the martial artists in the distance or nearby, they were all shocked. To them, the number of geniuses from the 9 prefectures that they had seen wasn't many. However, they had always thought that it was just an undeserved reputation. But now, they felt that the geniuses of the 9 prefectures were nothing more than this. What kind of sword is this? Lu Shengyun was also greatly shocked. If a middle-stage martial celestial was so powerful, it was hard to imagine that he, a sage-to-be, would be killed by the sword if he reached the late-stage martial celestial. Thinking of this, Lu Shengyun finally felt a touch of fear. He knew that such a guy could not be allowed to live. Although Lin Ling's sword had surprised him, He was still confident that if they were to fight to the death, Lin Ling would not be his opponent. However, just as he was thinking about this, a sudden change occurred in front of him. Dragon God, Sky of Freedom, Calamity-destroying Sun Bao. Lin Ling's left hand turned into a jade-like hand. He gently pulled at the air, and a dragon's roar could be heard. A mysterious power was as dazzling as a meteor, gradually forming a 2-meter-long giant bow. This bow was made of dragon bones. On both sides of the bow were dragon heads. It was majestic and had the power to protect the Buddha and kill all ghosts and demons. Most importantly, Lin Ling began to hold the bow. Although his left arm was trembling, the bow was slowly drawn. An indescribably terrifying power quietly bloomed in the ancient forest. It shocked the world and made ghosts and gods weep. Oh no, it's the dragon god. Seeing this, Lu Shengyun panicked. Because he saw that Lin Ling's arrow was actually a dragon. Most importantly, that bow and that arrow gave him an enormous amount of pressure. It was a god shooter bow. He can only use this bow once. Therefore I have to avoid it. Lu Shengyun did not care about killing Lin Ling. At this moment, he only wanted to dodge the bow. Therefore his body exploded, turned into endless thunderclouds, and flew away. The sage-to-be expert ran away. Such a change undoubtedly made people feel that it was unreal. One must know that when Lu Shengyun arrived, they all thought that the 3 cockroaches would definitely die. However, as the battle continued, the blue-robed young man became more and more courageous. He even used the god shooter bow to force Lu Shengyun to flee. This is the first time I've seen a sage-to-be running away. The Reverend King stared intently at the sky as he solemnly spat out a sentence. Next to him, Sakura was extremely excited. He did not expect Lin Ling to have such means. However, at this moment, Lin Ling's forehead was full of cold sweat. The bow was difficult to draw. He could not control it. Lu Shengyun, where do you think you're going? Lin Ling did not intend to fully draw the bow. He finally decided to shoot the arrow. As soon as the arrow was shot, the world changed color. Countless dragon gods seemed to have arrived, wandering in the sky and roaring. Whoosh! The arrow was shot. It chased after Lu Shengyun at the speed of 100 worlds. The fatal killing intent made Lu Shengyun panic more and more. You're Lin Ling, right? From now on, let's shake hands and make peace. He even said anxiously. He was afraid that he would be killed by the arrow. Moreover, he wanted to run away, but he found that he was locked on by the arrow. There was no door in the sky and no way out on the ground. He knew that he was doomed. He never thought that he would die in the hands of a martial celestial junior. Whoosh! However, when he thought that he was going to die, the fatal arrow passed through his cheek and took away a strand of his hair. He was stunned on the spot. Rumble! The dragon god's arrow passed through the Dragon Tooth City and directly penetrated the huge ancient city. Then, it disappeared into the distance. This unforeseen event caused everyone to be shocked and terrified. They were surprised because Lu Shengyun was not dead. They were terrified because the power of the arrow was too terrifying. Damn it! I really can't control this bow. At this moment, Lin Ling was also stunned. He looked into the distance helplessly because although he could barely control the arrow was not accurate. This meant that he failed to use the Great Solar Calamity Bow for the first time. Otherwise, he believed that the arrow could really kill Lu Shengyun. At this moment, Lu Shengyun was still floating in the sky. It was as if he had walked around the gate of the underworld. His face was extremely pale and his body was still trembling. Chapter 30-20. Retreat Unscathed. Looking at Lin Ling in the distance, he was still scared. He didn't dare to rush forward to kill Lin Ling. He was afraid that Lin Ling would suddenly shoot another arrow at him. At that time, he wouldn't be able to escape. Lord Lu, this person should have reached his limit. If we don't kill him now, there will be endless trouble in the future. At that moment, a roar suddenly came from the distance. Bailey Ishiong was also attracted by the shocking battle here. Of course, his heart was also rumbling. He never thought that the young man he met in the past would have such a trump card. That's right. He's only a martial immortal. He can't use such an arrow a second time. With the addition of Bailey Ishiong, Lu Shengyun's courage increased a lot. He followed Bailey Ishiong and led the experts of Dragon Tooth City towards Lin Ling. Sigh, that guy is still a bit lacking. Seeing that the outcome had been decided, the onlooking cultivators all shook their heads. However, even though they thought that Lin Ling was definitely going to die, they still felt that Lin Ling had broadened their horizons. He had let them know that a martial immortal could also contend against a sage-to-be. Second brother, what should we do? Seeing the experts that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, Sakra's face became extremely ugly. Lin Ling shook his head. At that moment, he was completely exhausted. Likely, even an ordinary martial immortal would be able to kill him, let alone two half-sages. It seems that we've failed at the last step. King Mu shook his head and sighed. However, he didn't run away. Instead, he walked towards Lin Ling in the sky. He planned to die together with Lin Ling. Lin Ling, we're here. However, when Lin Ling and the others thought that the situation was settled, the forest in the distance suddenly started to move. A large number of powerful auras also arrived. The person in the lead was the fastest. He brought the demon god's tomb and swept away the cultivators of Dragon Tooth City. Everywhere he passed, there was a rain of blood. No one below the peak of the martial immortal realm could stop him. Meng Lu, you're still alive. Seeing the vigorous young man, Sakura couldn't help but be overjoyed. Haha, I won't die so easily. The white-haired young man roared. What was terrifying was that there were a lot of experts following behind him. They were actually the Uzumaki clan of the Milky Way. Moreover, some of the ancient tribes in the ancient forest had also arrived at this moment. Such a change undoubtedly infuriated Lu Shengyun and the others. The Uzumaki clan in the Milky Way, the three major clans in the ancient forest, all of these are their biggest threats. However, these clans were scattered and had never been united. This caused Lu Shengyun and the others to look down on them. But now, these races from the era of gods had come together, and it would be difficult for them to take advantage of them. Bailey Ishiong. After the patriarch of the Uzumaki clan arrived, he was the first to roar. What made Bailey Ishiong furious is that he sensed the power of boundary essence from the old man. One must know that the patriarch of the Uzumaki clan has always been a headache for Kuroto. The reason is that the patriarch of the Uzumaki clan has always been a headache for Kuroto. But now, these ancient races even had boundary essence. This was obviously extremely disadvantageous for them. Senpai, let's not fight today. However, just when the Uzumaki clan's experts were about to go all out, Lin Ling said indifferently, if we continue to fight, we will suffer great losses. Although they will inevitably be destroyed, we will definitely not be any better. Why are you afraid of them? Hearing this, a 2-meter-tall man from another clan roared. He had thick long hair all over his body, as if he was from the Divine Bear clan. Obviously, this was the first time he saw Lin Ling, so he didn't think that Lin Ling, a junior, could command them. Listen to him. It's absolutely right. However, the patriarch of the Uzumaki clan immediately said, which made the Longevity Bear clan stunned. The burly man frowned and asked, "Are you sure?" Yes, his words represent the Uzumaki clan's words. So if you want to go all out, then go all out. But without our Uzumaki clan, you can't win. The old man immediately said, "Okay, retreat today." The burly man pondered for a moment and nodded. Damn it! Bastard! Looking at Lin Ling being protected by several clans and then safely leaving, Bailey Ishiong and his wife were furious. After all, their son and daughter had both died at the hands of those two young men. But now, there was nothing they could do. They could only watch as the murderers left. However, they didn't dare to fight with their lives on the line. Everything was as Lin Ling had said. They didn't want to see an ending like this, where they killed 1,000 of their enemies and suffered 800 of their own. Lin Ling, under the protection of many powerhouses, was now floating away, but he sneered and said lightly, "Lu Xingyun, watch out for my arrow." What? This sentence was like a taboo, which made Lu Xingyun's face change greatly. He ignored everyone and immediately fled toward the direction of Dragon Tooth City. But after running for a few seconds, he suddenly reacted and looked back. There was no arrow behind him. He was obviously deceived. Little beast. Lu Shengyun was stunned in the sky. His face was incomparably ferocious. In fact, he was like a frightened bird at the moment. Who the hell are these three guys? They made us suffer again and again, and they can even threaten a half-saint. They are the strongest in the world. Bailey Ishiong also felt ashamed of Lu Shengyun, but he was more resentful as he looked into the distance. Lin Ling. Lin Ling. Lu Xingyun's eyes were cold. He knew that he had to ask the powerhouses of the Heavenly Court to fight. Go back. When the powerhouses of the Heavenly Court arrive, all of them will be killed. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Lu Xingyun walked toward Dragon Tooth City. It was not until the two major forces disappeared that the warriors of Dragon Tooth City began to talk and exclaim. They never expected that the three young men who were hunted down a year ago had grown to such a level. Not only were they not afraid of Lu Xingyun and his wife, but they also escaped unscathed. Especially the god-shooting dragon Bao, they would never forget the horror of that arrow for the rest of their lives. Lin Ling followed the Uzumaki clan and took the lead to return to the Heavenly River. After arriving here, Sakura could finally relax. This was the territory of the Uzumaki clan. Even if Lu Xingyun came here, he would definitely die here. These two little friends are really fierce. With just the two of them, they stirred up a bloody storm in Dragon Tooth City. This is dancing in the tiger's mouth. The patriarch of the Uzumaki clan seemed to know what Lin Ling had done and could not help but admire him. Old Uzumaki. Who are they? The patriarchs of several other clans frowned and looked at Lin Ling. In their view, they were just martial immortals. What qualifications did they have to call them? Humph. Don't underestimate them. What they did is something you can't do in your lifetime. The old man immediately disdained. Yo, they make themselves sound so powerful. Could it be that they are gods? Chapter 30-21. Secluded Cultivation. Seeing this, the patriarch of the Uzumaki clan sneered and immediately spoke of Lin Ling's pioneering work in the Dragon Tooth City. Every time he said a word, the faces of the patriarchs changed greatly. Two people? Then, under the eyes of Lu Xingyun, such a monstrous wave rose? They were dancing in the enemy's lair. Admirable. This old man is admirable. I'm also convinced. If it were our entire race, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to achieve what the two of you have. Haha, Bailey Yixiong's precious son is dead, and Lu Xingyun's ugly maid is also dead. Good. Voices of admiration immediately rang out. Everyone was in awe of Lin Ling and Lin Feng. Don't be too complacent. Lu Xingyun suffered a loss this time, so he will definitely invite the experts of the Heavenly Court. At that time, if we don't improve our strength, we will be uprooted. However, Lin Ling did not have any pride. Instead, he said seriously, Heavenly Court? This is a terrifying existence. What should we do now? The leaders of the major clans all looked at Lin Ling. In their opinion, Lin Ling was a peerless genius. Since he could fight against Lu Xingyun, he could definitely lead them to victory. Lin Ling smiled. He was in the same boat as these races, so he didn't hide his needs. I need time. Just give me 1 year, and I'll be able to break through to the next realm. Then, I'll solve everything. It could be said that he had reaped a great harvest. Since he did not lack cultivation resources, as long as he was given some time, he would not be afraid of Lu Xingyun and the others. A year. All right, before you break through, we will protect you. The patriarch of the Uzumaki clan suddenly threw caution to the wind. They had been fighting with Lu Xingyun for many years, but they had never been able to defeat him. But Lin Ling had only been here for a short time, but he had already created so many miracles. Therefore, he bet on Lin Ling's future. All right, we'll protect you. The other clans nodded as well. To them, a year was not a long time at all. Thank you. When I come out, I'll take care of everything. Lin Ling nodded solemnly. His eyes were also filled with battle intent. He had to start the first battle to take revenge on the Heavenly Court. By the way, what clan are you from? Since they had decided to cooperate, Lin Ling also wanted to be more familiar with these allies. We are from the Longevity Bear race. The tall and sturdy man laughed and said. His body was covered with thick brown hair, making him look like he was wearing a fur coat. However, in other aspects, he was the same as a human. Longevity Bear race? Lin Ling pondered for a moment and guessed the origin of this race. He smiled and said, one of the 100 great bloodlines, the Mighty God bloodline. Mighty God bloodline? Are we the descendants of the gods? The burly man was stunned. In fact, they were just a branch clan. They had lived in the Dragon Tongue Fong for a long time, so they were not familiar with their origins. Yes, the legendary Mighty God can be traced back to Kwafu. Quafu once chased after the sun and traveled across the universe. You all have one of Quafu's bloodlines. So we have such a great background. It seems like we are also the descendants of the gods. The man looked at his clan members and could not help but laugh excitedly. Lin Ling looked at the other two races. One of the races had wolf ears, dark skin, and extremely long arms. They carried bows made of tree branches on their backs and stood like javelins. However, Lin Ling could see that although the bows and arrows looked ordinary, they contained power that could not be underestimated. Moreover, only this tribe could unleash the power of such bows and arrows. She an explosive leaf wood, Lin Ling said with a smile. His words surprised the tribe because their bows were also passed down from their ancestors. Outsiders had no idea where the bows were made, but Lin Ling had pointed out the origin of the bows and arrows without any hesitation. You all should be the Bao God's bloodline, which is also one of the 100 great bloodlines. Little friend Lin Ling, your insight is beyond our imagination. We are different from the longevity bear race. We know our origin. We are the vermilion deer race and are close friends with the flying wild goose race. We have the Bao God's bloodline, which is also one of the 100 great bloodlines. A tall middle-aged man said with a smile. He looked extremely calm. Lin Ling nodded and looked at the other bloodline. This bloodline was extremely short and ugly, but they looked extremely tall and sturdy. At this time, Lin Ling did not know the origin of this race. We are not a descendant of the 100 great bloodlines. We are the ugly elephant race. We are good at barriers and digging holes. Seeing that Lin Ling was puzzled, one of them said with a smile. Yes, you must know that the Uzumaki race can hide in the heavenly river, but we are not good at water. We rely on the ugly elephant race to dig holes. By digging holes, we have repeatedly escaped the pursuit of Bailey Ishiong and the others. The vermilion deer race person immediately said, "It seems that you all have your own skills. Well then I will rely on you for the next year." After familiarizing himself with the major races, Lin Ling's heart was relaxed a lot. Don't worry, this year, we will be able to hold on no matter what. The people of the major races patted their chests and said, "Well, I will go into seclusion now." Lin Ling nodded and left, looking for a place to cultivate in seclusion. Of course, when he left, he also gave a large number of cultivation resources to his big brother and Meng Lu, so that they could improve their strength in a year. A year is just a blink of an eye for us. Our strength won't improve much. But geniuses are different. They can change so much in a year. Geniuses are the kind of people that make people envious. Looking at Lin Ling and the other two leaving, the major races sighed and said, Lin Ling and the others cultivated separately. He did not choose to cultivate in the heavenly river. Instead, he found an ordinary mountain range in the ancient forest, then dug a hole and hid in the mountain to cultivate. In the cave, Lin Ling's eyes flickered like stars. After his rebirth, his greatest goal was to kill his enemies with his own hands. And today, he was getting closer and closer to his revenge. With my current trump cards, I can defeat experts at the peak of the martial immortal realm. But it will be difficult for me to defeat a sage to be. The most important thing now is to break through to the next realm. Lin Ling analyzed, then took out the emperor crystal that Bailey Ishiong extorted and immediately refined it. First, he had to raise his dantian, which was the highest realm. Rumble. With enough cultivation resources, Lin Ling's dantian surged and the realm sea roared. After an unknown period of time, when all the emperor crystals were consumed, Lin Ling's cultivation reached the 5th level of the martial immortal realm. Following this, he began to refine the treasures he had obtained from the bronze secret chamber. It would be a waste to refine these treasures just like that. But at this moment, Lin Ling could not care less. His other 3 dantians surged. What was terrifying was that he was cultivating 3 dantians at the same time. Chapter 30-22. An expert had arrived. However, Lin Ling was too impatient. The weakest lightning-type dantian was unable to bear the burden and finally collapsed. Damn it! Lin Ling cursed. When one was unlucky, even water would be burnt between one's teeth. Among his 4 dantians, the realm-devouring beast, the space-time fire, the dragon dantian, and the thunder dantian was the weakest, so it was not strange that it collapsed. It could only be said that the path of cultivation was not smooth sailing. Even though Lin Ling had recultivated in 2 lives, there would still be accidents. However, Lin Ling's state of mind was also extremely calm. He glanced at the remaining treasures, gritted his teeth, and crazily piled up his dantian again. Rumble! As time passed, the collapsed dantian was reborn and he began to cultivate from the beginning. Lin Ling was already familiar with this because whether it was in his previous life or this life, he had the experience of recultivating many times. In the 9 provinces, he was probably the first person to recultivate. However, accidents happened again and the setbacks did not lessen. The 4th dantian collapsed again. Fuck! Fuck! Lin Ling was tongue-tied and his face became abnormally ugly. Looking at the other 3 dantians, they had all reached the 5th level of the martial immortal realm. When combined, they had the power of the 15th level of the martial immortal realm. Even his godly demon body, with the accumulation of a large number of treasures, had reached the power of the 150 realm. However, the weakest dantian had failed repeatedly. If I don't rush up, I won't come out of seclusion. Lin Ling became stubborn. He knew very well that if the 4th dantian did not succeed, he would definitely be lacking in strength to fight against a sage-to-be. Next, he carefully cultivated and did not dare to be greedy. The 4th dantian also slowly improved and gradually reached the World King realm, then the True God realm. As it got closer and closer to the martial immortal realm, Lin Ling became more careful. Fortunately, this time, he successfully entered the martial immortal realm and the rainbow also appeared. Unfortunately, the 4th dantian's talent was very ordinary, so rainbow was also extremely ordinary. However, Lin Ling was still secretly delighted. Then, he borrowed the large amount of spiritual energy gathered in his body and tried to break through to the martial immortal realm again. 2nd level of the martial immortal realm. The 3rd level of the martial immortal realm. 4th level of the martial immortal realm. In the end, his 4th dantian had also reached the 5th level of the martial immortal realm. This caused Lin Ling to finally open his eyes, which were filled with ecstasy. With the fusion of the 4 dantians, the strength of the boundary essence had already reached the level of a 20th stage martial immortal. Moreover, compared to Li Xiaoyao at that time, Lin Ling's 3 dantians were not weak at all. Hee, Li Xiaoyao is getting closer and closer to his peak. Lin Ling rubbed his palms. Right now, he had to choose the path of cultivation. He could comprehend martial arts. It could also be used to cultivate rank power. Moreover, he would be able to unseal the true God martial spirit. In the end, Lin Ling gave up on unsealing the true God martial spirit because unsealing all 4 dantians would take too much time. Therefore, he chose to comprehend martial arts. After reaching the middle stage of the martial immortal realm, in addition to the powerful boundary essence, I can also use the martial arts left behind by Li Xiaoyao. However, the most important thing is still the Dragon Clan's 8 tribes' divine ability, Great Calamity Destroying Sun Bao. Lin Ling muttered to himself. The 8 tribes' divine ability he obtained was the Heavenly Dragon Technique, which was also the Dragon God's guardian of the Buddha God. It could kill gods and demons. I have seen the people of the world, walking in the boundless dust. They do not know what is going on, how long can they enjoy glory and splendor, how many days do they have. Even if they have 1,000 catties of gold, they do not know the poverty of the forest. Lin Ling silently chanted in his heart. Deep within his bones, the power of the dragon bone also spread out and formed a dazzling light in his left hand. Then, Lin Ling pulled his left hand and a majestic giant bow that seemed to be formed by the dragon bone appeared. In the past, this dragon bow could kill a half-sage with 1 arrow. Unfortunately, my accuracy was too bad, so this time, I have to improve it. Lin Ling knew very well that even if he had a powerful bow and arrow, if he didn't have a good aim, everything would be nonsense. Therefore, he also unceasingly comprehended. The first arrow, the heavenly dragon's protection, the good karma increases day by day. The second arrow, gather the emperor's karma, Bodhi does not retreat. A Buddha-like voice floated in Lin Ling's mind. What surprised him was that the great calamity-destroying Sun Bao was not worth a single arrow. According to legend, it could shoot 9 arrows, forming the 9 heavenly dragons' protection, the protection of all Buddhas, the connection of fate. This meant that when 9 arrows were shot, not only in this life, but also in the next life and the future life, it was extremely powerful. The Dragon Clan's 8 tribes' divine ability is indeed terrifying. Lin Ling was shocked. The great calamity-destroying Sun Bao's arrow had the speed of 100 worlds. What if 9 arrows were shot? Moreover, Lin Ling also suddenly comprehended something with that arrow. The speed of his god-devil body also greatly increased. Unknowingly, it reached the speed of 40 worlds. At this moment, small finger-sized holes appeared in the huge mountain range he was in, like a beehive. This was the result of Lin Ling's arrow. What was terrifying was that the arrow that could kill a god-devil actually caused such a small reaction after piercing through the mountain range. Even the passing cultivators did not notice it. While he was in seclusion, Lin Ling also checked the scabbard. The scabbard required his essence, energy, and spirit. At this moment, his essence, energy, and spirit had greatly increased, causing the power of the sword to increase by a lot. Time quietly passed like this, and the area around Dragon Tooth City became quiet. On this day, Dragon Tooth City finally welcomed an expert. This was a young man. He rode 3 cheelants and arrived like a divine general. The moment he appeared in the sky above Dragon Tooth City, all the martial artists in the city found it difficult to breathe. They felt extremely oppressed. Obviously, he was another expert of the Sage-to-Be realm. "Senior Lu, are you here?" A soft voice floated out from the young man's mouth. "Who are you? Why are you looking for Lord Lu?" In the city, an old man immediately cupped his hands and bowed. He was an expert at the peak of the martial immortal realm. Scram! The young man took a step forward. What was terrifying was that his step caused the entire city to explode, as if it had been ruthlessly slapped down by someone. The old man's expression changed greatly. Different from others, he saw a huge foot that was ruthlessly stomping down on him. That foot was like the leg of a deity. "Sir, please spare my life." The old man knew that the young man was a genuine expert of the Sage-to-Be realm. Unfortunately, it was too late. Everyone saw the old man's body explode. What was terrifying was that no one saw how the young man attacked. Everyone only saw the young man take a step forward. "How dare you? Why did you kill the people of my Bailey family?" Just at this moment, a furious roar suddenly sounded. Bailey Ishiong soared into the sky. "Who are you?" The young man looked at Bailey Ishiong with contempt. "Sage-to-Be realm? Too weak, too weak. You only have a first-grade desolate body. Savage 18 steps. Cloudless deity." Chapter 30-23. Besiege the Heavenly River. Zhongyan Guju, the Guard of the Gods. Bailey Ishiong tenaciously looked at that giant, his complexion greatly shocked. However, the formless pressure from the sky assaulted him, causing him to raise both of his hands to block that dreadful power. Boom! Boom! Bailey Ishiong's body was suddenly pressed down and a huge crater appeared on the ground. Looking carefully, the shape of the crater was a footprint. And in that deep pit, Bailey Ishiong's entire body was coughing up blood. He grimaced in pain as he desperately tried to block the invisible force in the sky. At this moment, his heart was also rumbling. What kind of power was this? Why was it so terrifying? Since he'd attained the half-saint realm, this was the first time he'd experienced the feeling of being easily suppressed by someone of the same cultivation level. "Junior brother Ling Bao, he's one of us." However, just when Bailey Ishiong was on the verge of death, an anxious voice sounded. Lu Shangyun had finally appeared. "So that's how it is." In the sky, the young man looked at the ground with disdain. With a twitch of his brows, the terrifying power from before disappeared. Cough cough. Bailey Ishiong coughed up a mouthful of blood, and then floated up from the deep pit with a dignified expression. He seemed to have guessed that this person was from the heavenly court, as mentioned by Lu Shangyun. This person's strength was indeed terrifying. "Senior brother Lu, Master is very dissatisfied with you. You can't even resolve such a small matter. Among the 18 branches of the heavenly court, you are the worst." The young man walked down from the sky with his hands clasped behind his back. He was reprimanding Lu Shangyun like a teacher. "Junior brother, I didn't want to do this either." Hearing this, Lu Shangyun cursed in his heart, but he still had a helpless expression on his face. Martial god Qilin had a total of 18 disciples. Among them, Lu Shangyun was not the most favored one. The young man in front of him was called Tian Lingbao. He was also a leader of a branch of the heavenly court. He was ordered by martial god Qilin to help Lu Shangyun. No wonder he was so arrogant. Humph. After the young man landed on the ground, he didn't even look at Lu Shangyun and immediately walked towards the city. "Prepare a feast for me. I want the best wine, the best meat, And the most beautiful women. His voice drifted over at the same time. All right, junior brother, I'll get it done right away. Lu Shangyun did not dare to neglect and quickly replied. Lord Lu, who is this person? He's too arrogant. After Lu Shangyun, Bailey Yixiong followed. He was still not happy. He had been trampled on in front of everyone. He had lost a lot of face. He's a genius from the spirit state Xian sect, a member of the heavenly court, and one of the disciples of the martial god's master. I advise you not to offend him, or else even I won't be able to save you, Lu Shangyun said solemnly. His words made Bailey Yixiong's pupils constrict. Xian Zong. It was one of the two most powerful royal sects in the spirit state. It was as famous as the Vajrayana sect and controlled the entire spirit state. Unlike the other weak divine lands, the esoteric sect and the prominent sect were powerful forces outside of the 9 states. In the 9 states, many powerhouses knew about them. The people of Xianzong have the heavenly court as their backing. Indeed, we cannot afford to offend them, Bailey Yixiong secretly said. Both of them quickly caught up with that youth. In a vast hall that had just been built, the fragrance of wine floated. The heavenly spiritual treasure was sitting at the head of the hall, hugging 2 beautiful women. His big hands stroked the 2 women's cheeks until they blushed. Tell me, who are our opponents? The heavenly spiritual treasure stared at the 2 beauties in his arms and said lightly. They are 3 young men of unknown origin. They have called on the nearby tribes to fight against us. Lu Shangyun said immediately. Oh, interesting. What's their cultivation? The heavenly spiritual treasure smiled faintly. Hearing this, Lu Shangyun and Bailey Yixiong looked at each other, and their faces were a little embarrassed. Finally they said, Middle stage martial immortal realm. Bang! The heavenly spiritual treasure suddenly smashed the wine cup on the table. 2 good-for-nothings. But one of them is too difficult to deal with. He has an unknown divine bow, and he can kill a sage-to-be. Lu Shangyun quickly explained. No need to explain. Explaining is covering up. It can't cover up your trash. You said that person has a divine bow and can kill you, but why are you still alive? Also, why is such a divine bow controlled by a junior in the martial immortal realm? The heavenly spiritual treasure said disdainfully. I don't know, but it seems that the divine bow is not a treasure, but a divine power of the dragon clan. Lu Shangyun said. It's getting more and more interesting. I'm very curious about that divine power. Well, I'll kill those 3 cockroaches for you today. Good. The heavenly spiritual treasure seemed to have heard something that moved him. This trip was really not in vain. Junior brother Lingbao, shall we set off now? Good. Seeing that the heavenly spiritual treasure was moved, Lu Shangyun and Bailey Yixiong suddenly looked forward to it. Don't worry. We'll kill them tomorrow. Have a good rest today. They can't escape even if they grow wings. Good. The heavenly spiritual treasure's voice was mixed with strong confidence, which made Lu Shangyun and others laugh. With the help of the heavenly spiritual treasure, they would definitely be able to kill Lin Ling. That night, the heavenly spiritual treasure enjoyed the beauties, and this person was extremely powerful. He actually asked for 3,000 beauties in one night. This made Bailey Yixiong gasp. He was afraid that this genius expert would not be able to lift his spirits tomorrow. However, the next day, the heavenly spiritual treasure appeared in spirit. Let's go and kill them. After saying that, the heavenly spiritual treasure took the lead. Although he looked young, he already had the prestige of an immortal emperor. Both Lu Shangyun and Bailey Yixiong nodded. Bailey Yixiong told Lu Shangyun that he was going to prepare, but when he secretly checked, he was horrified to find that the 3,000 beauties had been ravaged to death, and many of them were young girls. What a beast-like existence! Even though Bailey Yixiong was not a good person, he was also horrified by the ruthlessness of the heavenly spiritual treasure. This young man looked gentle on the surface, but he was actually like a tiger. They're in the heavenly river. Our people found that they're hiding in the heavenly river. A group of people left the Dragon Tooth City. Someone immediately told Lu Shangyun and others to go to the heavenly river. At this moment, in the heavenly river, the patriarchs of the major clans naturally received the news, and they were all on guard. What should we do? Now that they've arrived at the heavenly river, should we inform Lin Ling and others to come out? It's almost been a year. The people of the Longevity clan said uneasily. What are you panicking for? This is our territory. Why should we be afraid of them? The patriarch immediately reprimanded. "Wait here and see how strong they are." Hearing this, the people of the major clans waited quietly, because if they left the Heavenly River, their combat strength would be greatly reduced. At this moment, above the Heavenly River, many experts appeared, overlooking the rolling river below. The Uzumaki clan is good at water. They can greatly increase their strength by hiding in the river, but after we enter the water, our strength will more or less weaken. So, over the years, we have not conquered the nearby area. Chapter 30-24. Dream Flow was resisting a half-saint. As soon as he finished speaking, he began to move. His seemingly casual steps were mesmerizing. Those who were weaker stared at his legs and directly spat out blood. All of a sudden, they realized that those footsteps were not something they could see through. Savage 18 steps, cloudless deity. A low shout suddenly sounded. World essence that could destroy anything in its path surged out. Everyone saw a godlike foot ruthlessly stomp down on the ferocious river below. It was awe-inspiring. This is at least a level 7 deity martial art. Bailey Ishiong said with a grave expression when he saw the familiar foot again. The path of martial arts was as vast as the universe. Any great Tao could reach the pinnacle. Some were proficient in talent, some were proficient in martial arts, and some were simple and crude, relying on superior talent and cultivation realm. Heaven's spiritual treasures, on the other hand, were clearly adept at martial arts. Furthermore, they also possessed powerful innate talents. Rumble. Under the sole of that foot, the heavenly river exploded. Countless amounts of river water were crushed and directly evaporated. What kind of power is this? In the river, a rolling whirlpool appeared, shocking everyone. They had been in the heavenly river for so many years, but this was the first time they had seen the entire river tumbling. Boom. At this time, another rumbling sound rang out. The people of the various clans were unable to stand steadily, and some of them even directly fell to the ground. It doesn't matter. They don't dare to go down the river, so they can only be arrogant on the river. It won't be long before they leave helplessly. The Uzumaki patriarch frowned and said, "Boom, boom." However, the roar continued to sound. At first, everyone believed the words of the Uzumaki clan's patriarch, but gradually, they found that something is wrong with the river. Because the sky is shrouded in light. This meant that there was less and less water in the river, which caused the light from the sky to shine down. Heavens! What kind of god has come from the heavenly court? This time, everyone panicked even more. One had to know that the heavenly river was the water of the universe. For some reason, it had flowed into the dragon tongue Fong, forming a natural barrier. But now, this natural barrier was gradually disappearing. Bunch of beasts, you won't be able to escape even if you grow wings. Let me give you a piece of advice. You'd better obediently roll out of here, put your hands on your heads, and walk out in a horse stance. At this moment, a mocking voice came from the sky. Ha ha! Many people even laughed mockingly. Wasn't it the walking posture of a crab when it held its head and walked out in a horse stance? Ha ha! This group of lowly commoners can't be arrogant now, right? Lu Shengyun also smiled faintly. It was indeed a heaven's spiritual treasure. The terrifying 18 steps of the savage wilderness had actually crushed the heavenly river. It was truly an amazing existence. You don't want to come out? I like people with integrity the most. At this moment, the celestial spiritual treasure said mockingly and stepped forward again. Rumble. The river was getting smaller and smaller, gradually revealing a large number of powerhouses under the river. The Uzumaki clan and the others were dumbfounded as they stared blankly at the sky. Clearly, they did not expect the other party to step into the heavenly river so quickly. Is it you lowly commoners? Go to hell. Looking at the powerhouses of the Uzumaki clan, the celestial spirit treasure smiled disdainfully and raised his foot high as if he was going to trample on the world. A terrifying pressure shrouded everyone under the river. Stop him. Everyone immediately burst out with all their strength and shot into the sky like a swarm of locusts. At the same time, the ferocious foot descended, and an ancient giant appeared and stomped down fiercely. It seemed to be able to break the dragon's tongue and teeth in half. The powerhouses of the major clans all rushed into the sky and collided with the foot. It's at least 30% of the realm power. The patriarch of the Uzumaki clan said seriously before approaching the power in the sky. But at this point, he could only resist it. Looking from afar, The scene was extremely spectacular. The foot condensed by boundary essence stepped on the ground, and a large number of powerhouses rushed into the sky, trying to block the foot. However, no matter how many powerhouses there were, it seemed to be useless. The foot was still slowly stepping down. Haha, my foot is fragrant. The celestial spiritual treasure looked indifferent. Puff. All the powerhouses spat out blood. One should know that their physical strength was extremely tyrannical, but now that strength was useless. I'll help you. But at this moment, a fierce shout suddenly sounded, and then a white-haired young man appeared. He didn't move much, but his palm reached toward the foot in the sky. Suddenly, the celestial spiritual treasure's expression changed, and he quickly retracted his foot. But it was still too late. Under his foot, a stream of blood flowed out. Very good. A 6th-level martial immortal can actually hurt me. Tell me your name. The celestial spiritual treasure's expression became extremely ugly. This person who suddenly appeared was somewhat extraordinary. Menglu. Under the ground, the white-haired young man looked up at the sky with a cold expression. Young hero Menglu. The people of the major clans were ecstatic. These geniuses were indeed powerful. One of them blocked the attack of that powerhouse. However, Menglu didn't have any pride. His previous attack could be said to have erupted with all his strength, but it only injured the latter. The half-step Saint realm was indeed worthy of its reputation. Be my subordinate, and I'll spare your life. The celestial spiritual treasure looked down at Menglu with the intention of recruiting him. Menglu raised his head and said indifferently, "You've only cultivated longer than me. If I reach the half-step Saint realm, I can kill an ant like you with a single finger. You're a good emperor-level genius. I'll give you another chance. Be my subordinate. Although your future is indeed good, if you die halfway, then everything will be fleeting clouds." The celestial spiritual treasure also became cold. I, Menglu, will never be anyone's subordinate. That's the case in this life, and that's the case in the next. Menglu's long hair fluttered, and his backbone was extremely strong. Very arrogant. Then let's see how many steps you can take. The celestial spiritual treasure also knew that he couldn't recruit a genius like Menglu. 18 steps of the savage, soldier's saber calamity name. The celestial spiritual treasure unleashed an even stronger attack, and its grade power reached as much as 40%. Boom! The ground instantly cracked, as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. A foot covered the sky as it stomped down heavily. Get down! The celestial spiritual treasure let out a furious roar. Young hero Menglu, quickly retreat. Seeing this, the people of the major clans all became nervous. Boom! However, Menglu didn't retreat. Instead, he charged toward the sky, carrying the pride of the Tomb Guardian clan to fight against the famous powerhouse of the Spirit Province. Unfortunately, his cultivation was still a bit weak, and he was no match for that ferocious foot. Therefore, he was suppressed. Even so, the celestial spiritual treasure's eyes narrowed. Menglu was only at the middle stage of the martial immortal realm, but he actually blocked his half-step Saint realm attack. One must know that his attack could not only trample martial immortals to death, but it could also trample ordinary half-step saints to death. Chapter 30-25. The Pride of His Brothers, the Tomb of Saga. Leave immediately. Almost at the same time, Menglu's voice rang out, causing the expressions of the people from the various clans to change drastically. Menglu wanted them to leave? If we leave, you'll die. The patriarch of the Uzumaki clan roared. If I die, it will prove that this is all I am. Menglu growled. Boom. Everyone's hearts thundered. This was a true genius. If I die, it proves that I'm only so. This was a genius who challenged the limits of his life. Go! The patriarch of the Uzumaki clan shouted. The short and stout members of the Ugly Elephant clan displayed their innate talent and quickly dug holes under the ground. In just 3 breaths of time, a huge hole had appeared. From this, one could see how powerful this clan was. They could even dig a hole in the primal chaos and enter the void to reach the other side. Go! After that, the people of the various clans did not dare to stay for long. They all jumped into the deep hole. Oh no, they're escaping. Seeing this, Lu Shangyun and the others' expressions changed drastically. This was the best opportunity. How could they miss it? What's the big deal about the life and death of an ant like him? Instead, it's this guy called Meng Lu who's moved me the most. However, the celestial spiritual treasure didn't care about their escape. Instead, it looked at Dream Flow calmly. Let's go kill them all. Heavenly spiritual treasures did not care about the lives of ants, but Lu Shangyun and Bailey Yixiong cared, so they both rushed to the ground, trying to kill everyone. Rumble! But at this moment, the huge white bone giant suddenly arrived. A long halberd ruthlessly swept out, creating a foul wind and a rain of blood. The warriors of Dragontooth City were ruthlessly smashed into pieces, causing blood to rain down like rain. Even Lu Shangyun and Lu Shengyun's expressions changed drastically. They were somewhat fearful of this attack. Subconsciously, they all retreated. The halberd was like a rainbow, piercing through the horizon. A white bone giant appeared on the ground. It had a long halberd in its right hand and a bone shield in its left. It was as if it had come from the underworld. It's Sakura. This fellow has also grown to such a level? It's only been a year. Lu Shangyun and the other man looked at the white bone giant on the ground, and their pupils suddenly trembled violently. Even Meng Lu turned his head to look, a smile full of fighting spirit appearing at the corner of his mouth. Indeed, Sakura did not disgrace him. Although he was also a martial immortal, he was able to make a half-saint retreat in fear with a single strike. Another genius. He must be the strongest of the three. That heavenly numinous treasure was also a little surprised. These young men who had suddenly appeared were one more shocking than the other. That's not the case. There's another person who's even stronger. However, Lu Xingyun's next words made the heaven spiritual treasure look incredulous. These two youths were already very strong, exceeding his imagination. Even in the spirit province, they were rare talents. But who knew that there was an even stronger one? I believe in the legend of the divine bow. If I get that cultivation method, I wonder how much my strength will increase. The heavenly spiritual treasure obviously didn't care about the appearance of Sakura. Instead, he felt that this trip wasn't in vain, because he wanted to seize the advantage of these youths. Let's go. At this moment, Sakura let out a roar, causing the people of the tribe to not dare to stay and quickly retreat. Sakura, you are very impressive. However, can you block two half-saints? Lu Xingyun's eyes were full of murderous intent. This Sakura must not be left alive. After saying that, he and Bailey Yixiong looked at each other, and the two of them joined forces to attack Sakura. Boom, boom, crack, crack. Even though Sakura was a rare genius, blocking two half-saints at the same time put a lot of pressure on him. A huge white bone shield appeared in his hand, crazily blocking the attacks of the two, which made Lu Xingyun and the others look even more dignified. In just a short year, Sakura seemed to have changed into a different person. How terrifying! Sakura, take them away. At this moment, Meng Lu let out a roar. You're crazy! Sakura immediately shook his head. Haha, you've stirred up huge waves in Dragontooth City, but such a heroic thing has nothing to do with me. As a man, as a cultivator who came from the same place as you, I've been humiliated, so today is my stage. I'm going to stop them all by myself and let you all escape unscathed. Meng Lu sneered and said arrogantly. Hearing this, Sakura was stunned. He knew that Meng Lu was also a proud person, but Meng Lu had not made any achievements all this time. With Meng Lu's pride, this was not something he could tolerate. So today, he decided to save everyone with his life. Sakura, I'm very happy to meet you, and I'm also very happy to meet Lin Ling. The days when we roamed the world together made me experience happiness that I've never experienced before in the clan. Also, the battle made my blood boil, but don't let me down. Tomb of Saga. With the last roar, the world began to change. The earth disappeared, and the sky disappeared. A lonely, cold, and silent atmosphere filled the air. All the worlds disappeared, and only an ancient tomb appeared, as if it was the tomb of an ancient god. Fallen leaves scattered, and eternal destruction. What kind of talent is this? Sensing the mysterious atmosphere, the faces of heaven's spiritual treasure and other experts changed greatly. They could only see the ancient tomb, and everything before had disappeared. Well done, Meng Lu, you're a real man. Sakura's eyes became moist. Sakura, had never known that the heart of that cold and indifferent young man was actually hot-blooded. So he could not let Meng Lu down, because if he continued to stay and fight to the death, It would be a waste of Meng Lu's efforts, and it would also be a humiliation to Meng Lu. A true brother did not need to say much. As long as he could fulfill his wish, that was enough. Everyone, retreat! Sakura roared and led the major clans to retreat through the big hole in the ground. At the same time, Sakura destroyed the hole and completely disappeared. Rumble! At the same time, a terrifying foot stomped down from the sky and landed at the hole, causing the ground to sink. The hole that had just collapsed once again had a bottomless hole. And this time, it was Heaven's spiritual treasure who attacked. They still escaped. However, Heaven Numinous Treasure's expression was a little ugly. The hole-digging tribe's mystique had clearly not dug an ordinary hole. After entering the hole, the various large tribes had already entered another void. Therefore, he did not trample the people of the various large tribes to death. You're called Meng Lu, right? You're very powerful, using your talent to buy them 3 breaths of time, enough for them to escape. Then, Heaven's spiritual treasure looked at Meng Lu and said. Meng Lu's face was pale, but the corner of his mouth revealed a proud smile. Now, he also had something to be proud of. Men were like that. They would never be cowards. If they wanted to be proud, they would be proud to the end. Chapter 30-26. Lin Ling had come out of seclusion. Capture him. Looking at the exhausted Meng Lu, the celestial spiritual treasure waved his hand. Junior brother Ling Bao, should we kill him? Lu Shangyun wished he could tear Meng Lu into pieces. A genius like Meng Lu was just too terrifying. Leave him here for the time being. Make an example out of him and unify the dragon tongue and Fong. The celestial spiritual treasure left these words and left. Unify the dragon tongue and Fong. Hearing his words, all the warriors let out a deafening roar. The celestial spiritual treasure was indeed an expert from the heavenly court. He had only been here for a day, but he had conquered the dragon tongue and Fong at lightning speed. I'll give you one more chance. If you agree to submit to me tomorrow, you won't have to die. Meng Lu was still standing on the ground, but the celestial spiritual treasure's voice rang in his ears. This made him say expressionlessly, even if you give me 10,000 years, I won't change my mind. This guy is really arrogant. Humph, he's just being shameless. If he follows the celestial spiritual treasure, he can enter the prominent sect. He might even become a member of the heavenly court and be valued by the martial god. He'll have a meteoric rise. In this vast universe, there are still a lot of fools. Seeing Meng Lu stubbornly refusing to submit, many people laughed sarcastically. That night, the Dragon Tooth City was also bustling with noise and excitement, as if they had won a great battle. Facts also proved that the fierce dragon crossing the river was still not as fierce as the local snake. Compared to the liveliness of the Dragon Tooth City, the ancient forest was much quieter. Except for the occasional cries of fierce beasts, the forest was like a deadly enemy. Hurry up and return to the city. Night is a paradise for monsters. At this moment, several figures were quickly passing through the forest. Their faces were filled with anxiety, and they were extremely cautious. In the ancient forest, except for those experts whom people looked up to, ordinary people did not dare to spend the night in the ancient forest because it was too dangerous. At this moment, a huge mountain range appeared in front of them. It was ancient and sacred, like a giant beast standing in the forest. Oh no, there's the smell of blood. Suddenly, one of the middle-aged men's expression changed drastically. After he spoke, something strange happened. The forest rustled. Then, a black behemoth the size of an ancient cow walked out quietly with ferocious breaths coming out of its nostrils. This was a royal ring black extinction wolf. According to legend, it was a descendant of the vast moon cow and the dark cloud wolf. It was a product of the era of the gods, and it was also the taboo of this ancient forest. Generally speaking, such vicious wolves would only appear at night. They could use the darkness of the night to greatly increase their strength. Even 10th-layer martial immortals would not be able to do anything to them. We're finished. The middle-aged man also knew how terrifying that beast was, so he smiled bitterly. Father, what should we do? Master, let's run. There were 3 other people beside him, and they all spoke up. It could be seen that they were a group of loose cultivators who had come here to obtain some heavenly materials and spiritual treasures, but they were unlucky to have encountered such a beast. We can't escape. The middle-aged man shook his head helplessly. Under the night sky, the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf's speed reached the speed of 38 worlds. It was much faster than them. Father. Hearing this, one of the young girl's eyes became moist. Roar. At this moment, the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf strode forward proudly. It did not attack immediately, as if it was the king of the divine beasts, enjoying the fear of the ants. The pressure suddenly enveloped them like a huge mountain, and they did not dare to move at all. Bang! However, at this moment, the sound of light footsteps suddenly resounded. A slender figure appeared in the depths of the ancient mountain. His footsteps weren't fast, but they carried the rhythm of the universe. In just a few breaths of time, he appeared in the open space. This was a young man with delicate features. He was wearing a clean long robe, making it hard for anyone to forget him with a single glance. Young man, hurry up and leave. Young man. Seeing the young man, the middle-aged man in front of him subconsciously said. The young man was very unlucky. He knew that the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf was here, but he still came here. Wasn't he looking for death? However, the young man did not move at all. Instead, he smiled faintly. Almost at the same time, the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf stopped. It bared its teeth and made a low sound, as if it had met its natural enemy. You just came out of seclusion, so you're in a good mood. I'll spare your life. The young man didn't even look at the wolf as he muttered to himself. His words caused everyone to cry out in alarm. Just who was this guy talking to? Was he talking to the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf? Was he crazy? However, the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf's tail drooped down. Its ferocious aura disappeared, and its voice became deeper. In the end, it stared at the young man, turned into a ray of black light, and disappeared. Its intuition told it that it could not afford to offend the mysterious young man. What? Seeing this, the middle-aged man and the others were shocked. The Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf was the taboo of the ancient forest. Even a level 10 martial immortal could not resist it. But now, the ferocious wolf had run away. Could it be that it was afraid of the young man? Amazing! Woo! The young girl touched her small mouth, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. If the young man and the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf had a big fight, and the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf had run away, she would think it was normal. However, the young man had only said a few words, and the Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf had disappeared without a trace. My friends, what happened in the ancient forest during this time? Yes. While the crowd was exclaiming, the young man walked over with a smile. There are many small things, but there is one big thing. I heard that the Dragon Teeth City is going to unify the Dragon Tongue Tooth region. The middle-aged man looked at the young man in awe. Oh, why would the Dragon Teeth City do that? The young man looked interested. I heard that an expert came and bombarded the Heavenly River. The tribes in the forest were almost annihilated. In the end, one person was caught. Now, the Dragon Teeth City is calling all the powerful forces in the vicinity to gather in the Dragon Teeth City tomorrow. The middle-aged man said again. Hearing that, the young man's expression changed slightly. He looked into the distance and said, "Sir, thank you." After saying that, the young man walked away. His pace was not fast, but in the blink of an eye, he had disappeared. How fast? I'm afraid that's the speed of 35 worlds. Seeing that the handsome young man had disappeared, the young girl's eyes widened. She knew that she had met an expert. It's more than that. The Imperial Ring Black Extinction Wolf has the speed of 38 worlds, but it was afraid of the young man. That means that the young man's speed is above the speed of 38 worlds. The middle-aged man said solemnly. He's so powerful. He looks like he's the same age as us. Why is he so much stronger than us? Hearing that, the several people of the younger generation all revealed expressions of admiration. He must be a genius from the Tantric sect or the prominent sect of the spirit state. These geniuses cannot be measured by common sense. They are the descendants of gods. They can travel all over the 9 states. They are not people we can look up to. Father, I didn't expect that we would be lucky enough to meet such an expert. I'm so jealous of him. Chapter 30-27. Demonstration. They hurried on their way, but they were grateful to the young man from before. If it wasn't for him, they would have died in the merciless forest. At that moment, the young man was heading towards Dragon Tooth City. His face was extremely ferocious, and a ferocious aura filled the air. He was Lin Ling. Now that his strength had greatly increased, he wanted to see what kind of experts had come from the heavenly court. Unknowingly, the sun rose, and purple clouds came from the east. A large number of experts had gathered in the vast Dragon Tooth City. They surrounded the city, and their faces were filled with excitement. Those experts had come from all over the world. They had received news that someone was going to unify the Dragon Tooth region. They were looking forward to it. This was because they were rogue practitioners after all. Even if they had a few disciples, they were from an unorthodox sect and had always lacked a signboard-like identity. Therefore, if the experts in Dragon Tooth City could gather them, they would be a big force and might even be able to enter the Vajrayana sect or the Prominent sect. The Tantric sect and the Prominent sect were the giants of the Spirit Province. After entering, the Spirit Province's cultivation resources would be continuously provided. Is the person who summoned us Bailey Ishiong? No, I heard that it's an expert from the Heavenly Court, the disciple of the martial god. Wow, his background is not small. Whispers rang out one after another, causing the entire city to gradually become lively. Those who spoke were only in the 10th stage of the martial immortal realm. Even those in the middle stage of the martial immortal realm were not qualified to speak. They could only look up at those experts, and their hearts were filled with shock. Thanks to everyone's kindness, I am extremely honored to have gathered here in Dragon Tooth City today. At that moment, a loud voice finally rang out, causing the entire city to become silent. Everyone looked around, and they immediately saw several figures appear in the sky, looking down at them like gods. So young. After seeing the heaven's spiritual treasure, the experts from all sides were incomparably shocked. I'll make it short. We came here today to unify the Dragon Tongue Fong and establish a branch of the Heavenly Court. We'll also make everyone a prominent force and seize a large amount of cultivation resources from the Spirit Province. Everyone here is an expert from the Spirit Province, but they are strong but not famous. This is simply burying the heroes here, so only by obtaining fame can we obtain more benefits. Tian Ling Bao smiled faintly and said again. When he said that they could enter Xianzong, people's breathing immediately sped up. Someone shouted. Then what do we have to do? Join the Heavenly Court and follow me as your leader. The Heaven spiritual treasure swept its gaze across the crowd and finally spat out a sentence. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire city fell silent. Even Lu Shengyun's eyes flashed slightly. This celestial spiritual treasure had a big appetite. He already had his own celestial court branch, and now he wanted to annex his own territory. If this celestial spiritual treasure became the head of the celestial court, then he could only be the deputy. Furthermore, if the heaven spiritual treasure were to return to Master, he would be able to receive Master's praise. Of course, although he was dissatisfied, Lu Shengyun did not dare to say anything. How is it? The heaven spiritual treasure looked at the heroes of the world and asked again. The people were still silent. Although the reward offered by the heaven spiritual treasure was very tempting, they were not fools. They did not like to be bound, but they were also afraid of being used as a tool. Sir, joining the heavenly court is not a trivial matter. I think we should think about it in the long run. An old man at the peak of the martial immortal realm laughed. Senior, you are right. The heaven spiritual treasure immediately nodded, but there was a touch of coldness in the depths of his eyes. He knew that he lacked prestige after all. The matter of joining the heavenly court can be dealt with slowly. However, there is one more important matter today, and that is the 3 villains who stirred up the Dragon Tongue Fong a year ago. Now that we have caught one of them, for the sake of the peace of the Dragon Tongue Fong, I plan to execute him in front of everyone. The heaven spiritual treasure suddenly waved his hand. Under the ground, there was a roar, and then a huge stone pillar floated up. A young man was tied to the stone pillar. At this moment, he looked tired and his eyes were slightly closed. One of the 3 young men who overturned the Dragon Tooth City a year ago. Some martial artists who came from afar exclaimed. They had also heard of this matter. It was said that the 3 young men were ferocious dragons with extraordinary courage, and they had created the first battle record. But now, such a powerful genius young man had been caught. This meant that the heaven spiritual treasure was indeed not to be underestimated. Killing him can be considered as the first shot fired by the heavenly court in the Dragon Tongue Tooth. The heaven spiritual treasure said again. His tone was calm, but in fact, He was killing the chicken to warn the monkeys, and it was also a demonstration of power. And the fact was indeed so. The reactions of the experts changed quietly. There was a touch of reverence in their eyes when they looked at the heaven's spiritual treasure. Bastard! Not far from the Dragon-Tooth City, a large number of people were hiding in the forest. One of them shouted angrily. He was Sakura. Sakura, don't be impulsive. They must have known that we would come. They might have been waiting for us to jump into the trap. Yes, that heaven's spiritual treasure obviously did it on purpose. The clan leaders of the various clans said. I know that too. But seeing Meng Lu die there, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Sakura said with red eyes. He clenched his fists, and his nails pierced his palms. In the end, they could only wait and see. At this moment, the Dragon-Tooth City was still silent. The heaven's spiritual treasure looked at Meng Lu and said, Meng Lu, you are a rare genius, so I'll give you one more chance. Submit to me. If you don't, then die. Hearing that, Meng Lu sneered and snorted disdainfully as his answer. Those who submit to me prosper, and those who oppose me perish. Don't blame me. Even if you were a real dragon, you wouldn't be able to survive in my hands, let alone a genius like you. Seeing that, the heaven's spiritual treasure nodded and raised his leg high. It looked like he was going to kill Meng Lu, but in fact, he was telling everyone that they had better submit to him. Otherwise they would end up like this genius. He's dead, he's dead. I heard that this genius can fight against a half-saint, but he still has to die. Looking at Meng Lu who was about to die, many people's hearts roared, and they began to hesitate whether to join the heavenly court. At the same time, the heaven's spiritual treasure attacked, trampling heaven and earth. In the sky, a huge foot stirred up the wind and clouds, and with a momentum that shocked the Dragon-Tooth City, it stomped down on Meng Lu. That terrifying foot once again caused everyone to be horrified. No one below the half-saint realm could block that foot. People further understood the power of the heaven's spiritual treasure. At this moment, Sakura, who was outside the city, couldn't hold back anymore. He let out a roar and pounced into the city. The clans behind him also knew that a battle of life and death was coming, so they didn't hesitate and rushed into the Dragon-Tooth City. It's too late. The heaven's spiritual treasure wasn't surprised by the appearance of Sakura and the others. In fact, he had been luring Sakura and the others out because he was betting on their brotherly relationship. Of course he was right. Chapter 30-28. The final battle in Dragon-Tooth City. However, just when everyone thought that Meng Lu was about to be stomped to death, a cold and gloomy aura filled the air. A figure appeared in front of Meng Lu like a ghost. He had one hand behind his back while the other was supporting the sky. He wanted to resist the huge foot in the sky. Boom! A deafening sound was heard, and the air billowed. People saw that the person who suddenly appeared made it difficult for the foot in the sky to stomp down. In the end, the foot shattered like glass. This change was undoubtedly earth-shattering. Lin Ling. After the attack of the heaven's spiritual treasure disappeared, Lu Shangyun and Bailey Yixiong also saw the person who came and could not help but exclaim, Lin Ling? The last of the three young men? He finally appeared. Boom! Dragon-Tooth City was also stirred up at this moment. Many people knew that among the three young men, one of them could not be underestimated, and he was Lin Ling. This young man was the leader of the fierce dragons. Second brother. At this moment, Sakura and the others had already rushed into Dragon-Tooth City, and they were all overjoyed. Meng Lu was tied to the stone pillar. At this moment, the corners of his mouth were also outlined, and it was a proud smile. Lin Ling. Had he finally come out of seclusion? Moreover, during this seclusion, he and Sakura's strength had increased greatly, and they could fight with a half-saint. As the most terrifying genius in Qingzhou, his improvement would not be less than Sakura's. Big brother, look after Meng Lu. At this moment, Lin Ling came to the stone pillar. He pulled his right arm and broke the chain. Next, he carried Meng Lu and walked towards Sakura and the others. The whole process could be said to be unscrupulous, and he did not pay attention to the experts in the sky. Okay, second brother, I will look after him. After receiving the dream stream, Sakura immediately nodded solemnly. The major clans also looked at Lin Ling and found that Lin Ling's cultivation had increased, which made them more confident. Although they did not think that Lin Ling was a match for the heaven's spiritual treasure, they had no way to retreat, so they could only fight with their backs against the wall. Lin Ling's eyes also began to look at the sky. There were 3 half-saints there, and one of the young men was so extraordinary that he could not help but lick his lips. However, his fighting spirit was also boiling. The corner of his mouth slightly moved, and his calm voice with a touch of madness permeated Dragon Tooth City. "Today, I will wash the heavenly court with blood." The moment these words floated out, the entire Dragon Tooth City was in an uproar. The eyes of all the experts narrowed, and then they revealed sympathetic gazes. Although Lin Ling was like a ferocious dragon crossing the river, the strength of a heaven's spiritual treasure was obvious to all. Therefore, no one thought that Lin Ling was a match for a heaven's spiritual treasure. "Ha ha ha, Lin Ling, you are really good at joking." Bailey Yixiong and Lu Shengyun did not interrupt Lin Ling because they wanted to see Lin Ling's final struggle. Although Lin Ling had the God Shooter arrow, the arrow was not accurate. Even if Lin Ling was lucky enough to kill a half-saint, they still had 2 half-saints. "Lin Ling, you escaped last time, but you still dare to come back. Do you think you can leave here alive today?" Lu Shengyun laughed, and his face became ferocious. The hatred of his daughter's death filled his heart at this moment. Although Lin Ling's God Shooter bow was terrifying, he knew that it would take a lot of time before the bow could be shot. So, he only needed to prevent Lin Ling from shooting. "I'll kill you." Lu Shengyun could not hold back his murderous intent. He stepped forward, and the fierce sound of thunder enveloped the sky, giving people a huge pressure. Lu Shengyun was also martial god Qilin's disciple, and his strength was not weak. However, he was frightened by Lin Ling's arrow in the past. Thunderstorm. This time, he used his full strength. His realm essence was vigorous, and formed a terrifying thunder tribulation, suppressing Lin Ling. Looking from the ground, a huge black thunderball appeared in the sky like a scorching sun. Its surface was full of ferocious electric snakes, which made the faces of Sakura and the others solemn. "Your Excellency Lin Ling, I'll help you." Reverend King took the lead and shouted. He was afraid that Lin Ling would not be able to block that move. "Second brother, I'll help too." Sakura was anxious, and he directly turned into a white bone giant. Now that it was a battle of life and death, they did not care about the numbers. Moreover, they knew that Lin Ling's God Shooter bow was terrifying, so they wanted to buy time for Lin Ling so that Lin Ling could use that arrow. "Is this one of the 3 young men? Is that all?" The celestial spiritual treasure said with his hands behind his back, his eyes full of disdain. He thought that this guy named Lin Ling had 3 heads and 6 arms, but now it seemed that he was only comparable to Meng Lu and the others. With such strength, not to mention the celestial spiritual treasure, even Lu Shengyun could kill him. It would just take more time. "No need, I'll deal with him." At this time, Lin Ling finally spoke. Without looking at Lu Shengyun in the sky, he took a step and shot into the sky. Boom! Under his steps, the realm-swallowing beast roared, the space-time fire boiled, and the dragon god roared. Rumble! The entire Dragon Tooth City instantly shattered, and dust rose into the sky. This fierce step directly changed the faces of all the warriors. Was this still a fierce dragon? This was simply a dragon god. "Go to hell!" Lu Shengyun was also surprised by the reaction of Lin Ling's foot, but he knew that if Lin Ling did not shoot the arrow, he would not be a match for him with his own strength. What's more, Lin Ling actually dashed towards his thunderstorm ball. Wasn't he overestimating himself? One should know that his storm of thunderball had gathered 30% of his rank power. People seemed to have come to their senses, and they all looked at the huge thunderball storm in the sky, wondering about Lin Ling's choice. Lin Ling disappeared into the black storm, and the thunderball still smashed into the ground. It was terrifying. "He won't die like this, will he?" After a while, someone finally spoke, but more people nodded. The rank power of the Sage-to-Be realm was like divine power. How could a martial immortal resist it? Boom! However, at this time, the thunderball, which was bigger than the Dragon Tooth City, roared, and then cracks appeared on it. Finally it exploded. "Oh my god! Am I seeing things?" At this time, people were shocked. It was as if they saw a butcher's knife slashing at Lin Ling's neck, but Lin Ling's neck did not break. Instead, the butcher's knife broke itself. At the same time, a figure shot toward Lu Shengyun like a cannonball, which made Lu Shengyun's face change greatly. It seemed that he still could not react. That was because the Lin Ling from a year ago other than the sword and the godly bow, was not worthy of his attention. But now, Lin Ling did not use his sword, nor did he use his bow, and easily broke his rank power. Chapter 30-29. A great battle against a half-step saint. However, Lu Shengyun was also a half-step saint realm expert. Although he was surprised, he was not flustered. He once again activated a huge amount of realm essence and punched towards Lin Ling. This punch was also the pinnacle of his primordial boundary technique. Lu Shengyun, last time you escaped with your life. Today, you dare to stir up a bloody storm in front of me? At the same time, Lin Ling also arrived. He transformed his boundary essence into a ferocious punch and collided with Lu Shengyun's attack. The moment their fists collided, Lu Shengyun finally panicked because he felt that Lin Ling's punch was not at the 5th level of the martial immortal realm at all. Instead, it was more like a sage-to-be realm. Although it did not have the aura of a sage, the richness of the realm essence was beyond his imagination. "Junior brother Ling Bao, save me!" he cried out anxiously. He never would have thought that 1 year later, Lin Ling's normal punch would be so hard for him to block. "Beast, don't be so arrogant." The heavenly spiritual treasure did not move, but Bailey Yixiong had already attacked. He could not watch Lu Shengyun die in front of him. If I, Lin Ming, want to kill someone, no one can save them. However, Lin Ling didn't pay any attention to Bailey Yixiong's attack. His fists were still rolling out, and they were even faster than before. Boom! With Lin Ling's sudden burst of boundary essence, Lu Shengyun's fist suddenly shattered like a firecracker, reaching his arm. His face was distorted, as if he couldn't believe everything in front of him. What had happened not long ago was now like a fleeting cloud. At that time, someone had humiliated his daughter, which made him very unhappy. He sent out experts to kill the 3 cockroaches, but who knew that the cockroaches were lucky? Not only did they not die, they even killed his daughter right under his nose. Now, the 3 cockroaches had grown, and the person in the lead even had the strength to kill him. All of this was like a dream. Finally, he woke up from his dream. Boom! His body was simply and brutally destroyed by the huge amount of realm essence. Blood and bone fragments fell to the ground like rain. The entire city was dead silent. A sage-to-be expert had been killed by a genius in the late stage of the martial immortal realm. Furthermore, he had been killed with a single punch. At this moment, not only the various experts, even Sakura and the others had their eyes trembling as they locked their gazes on the blue-robed figure in the sky. Today, Lin Ling didn't seem to be here just to save people. Instead, he seemed to be here for revenge. He does indeed have some strength. However, it's also very strange. He is clearly a 5th-level martial immortal, but his surging world essence actually gives me the feeling of a 15th-level martial immortal. Even Tian Ling Bao was shocked because even though he came from Xian's sect, he had never seen such a strange genius. "Bailey Yixiong, it's your turn. Come and fight." At this moment, Lin Ling also looked at Bailey Yixiong. Obviously, killing Lu Shengyun did not make him burst out with his full strength, so he lacked a feeling of exhaustion. Being stared at by Lin Ling, Bailey Yixiong's heart trembled inexplicably. His strength was slightly weaker than Lu Shengyun's. Now that Lin Ling had invited him to fight, he was a little flustered. Bailey Yixiong, a sage-to-be expert, is he afraid to fight? A year ago, these 3 young men were hunted down. Now the young man has invited him to fight, and Bailey Yixiong is afraid of fighting. What a terrifying guy. The people stared at Bailey Yixiong and suddenly guessed something. "Lord Ling Bao, help me." Yes. Sure enough, Bailey Yixiong did not dare to fight. He also looked at Tian Ling Bao and ran towards him after he finished speaking. "Lin Ling, I am injured today, so I don't plan to fight with you." Yes. As he walked, he said disdainfully, "If I want to fight, no one has the right to escape." Yes. Seeing this, Lin Ling sneered. Bailey Yixiong was obviously afraid, but he still wanted to show off. Let's see if he had the strength to show off. Bang! The void exploded in an instant. Lin Ling moved. The speed of 40 worlds burst out and turned into an invisible ominous chi, sweeping over Bailey Yixiong. A gust of wind suddenly came from behind, which made Bailey Yixiong's pupils tremble violently. He knew Lin Ling had made his move. Moreover, The momentum brought by his move made him feel that he could not resist. He quickened his pace and even roared in his heart. How could this be? The cockroach that was hunted down a year ago was now killing him. This cockroach was too big. You must be very curious as to why I have improved so much after a year. Let me tell you, it is because of the imperial crystals you gave me. Of course, there is also the bronze secret chamber left by Lu Shangyun. Ha! The ethereal voice strangely appeared in Bailey Yixiong's ears, which made his pupils tremble. Could it be that Lin Ling had used their treasures to improve his strength crazily? However, even if they had treasures, no one could improve their strength by several times in a year. Moreover, this also meant that Lin Ling was an expert that they had cultivated with all their wealth. Most importantly, such an expert was their opponent. You! Thinking of this, Bailey Yixiong's heart was filled with panic. He turned around and shouted angrily. However, there was no one behind him, which made him feel puzzled. I am in front of you. You! However, a cold voice, which seemed to come from the underworld, floated in front of him. This made Bailey Yixiong turn around in disbelief. When he saw the blue-robed youth who was only a meter away from him, the corner of his mouth trembled. When did Lin Ling come in front of him? He could not see through such a speed at all. For a moment, Bailey Yixiong stood there and did not dare to move. Lin Ling smiled coldly and stepped forward. That subtle movement made Bailey Yixiong's whole body tremble, as if he had seen a ferocious monster. A dignified sage-to-be is actually scared to this extent. Seeing this scene, everyone continued to exclaim. Even Di Shirtian and Meng Lu opened their mouths wide. The sage-to-be realm was the sky of Azure Prefecture. It was an expert on the same level as Emperor Qing. Not long ago, they were helpless when facing such an expert. However, in such a short period of time, Lin Ling was already capable of making a sage-to-be panic. This meant that if Lin Ling returned to Azure Prefecture, then Azure Prefecture would respect him. I don't know how this fellow cultivates. His comprehension ability is terrifying, and even his combat strength is terrifying. Meng Lu shook his head helplessly. He could be considered a formidable genius, but compared to Lin Ling, he was like the light of a firefly. Lord Spirit Treasure, save me! At this moment, Bailey Yixiong seemed to have lost the ability to resist, so he could only seek help from the Heaven Spirit Treasure. Your strength is really strange. I always thought it was an illusion, but now I realize that you can really defeat a sage-to-be at the first level. The Heaven Spirit Treasure knew that he should make a move. He had been observing Lin Ling all along, so he was familiar with Lin Ling's strength. Of course, the more familiar he was, the more shocked he was. You can't kill him with me here. The Heaven Spirit Treasure finally intended to make a move. He raised his foot high as if he wanted to trample the world. If I, Lin Ling, want to kill someone, not even the gods can save him. Chapter 30. Geniuses against geniuses. Without the power of cultivation, it was such a simple punch. However, although it looked simple, it was a punch that combined three desolate physiques, a punch that reached the 20th stage of the martial immortal realm. Save me. Bailey Yixiong did not even dare to resist. His voice was extremely weak. At that moment, there was only regret in his heart. If he had known that the cockroach was so strong, he would not have attacked Lin Ling in the past. He even blamed his dead son, Bailey Yanwu. Why did he have to provoke such a monster? Savage 18 steps, Soldier's Blade Calamity. When Lin Ling attacked, the Heaven Spiritual Treasure's attack also arrived. Before it landed, everyone on the ground lay down as if they were attacked by an invisible pressure. However, Lin Ling did not even look at the sky as he punched out with his fist. You're crazy. Bailey Yixiong knew that he was done for. Lin Ling was willing to risk being injured to kill him. His determination would not change even if the sky collapsed. I regret it. Bailey Yixiong roared toward the sky. Cockroach, cockroach, cockroach my ass. This is clearly a divine dragon. Boom. In the next instant, Bailey Yixiong's chest was penetrated by a punch. He looked at his chest with a bitter smile and shook his head helplessly. In the next instant, his body exploded. Looking at the dead Bailey Yixiong, the mouths of the experts trembled. There was only one sentence in their minds. If I, Lin Ling, want to kill someone, not even the gods can save me. It seemed that it was indeed so. Dead, the two strongest half-saints of the Dragon-Tooth City are both dead. Beside Indra, the people from the various big clans muttered. They had fought with the Dragon-Tooth City for many years but had never been able to defeat them. And now, the Dragon-Tooth City was completely submerged in the hands of three young men. You're courting death. Seeing Bailey Ishiong die, the Heaven Spiritual Treasure seemed to be humiliated. That was because he thought that since he had attacked, Lin Ling would have to face him with his full strength. However, Lin Ling did not even bother to pay attention to him and killed Bailey Ishiong right in front of him. That was obviously a form of contempt. In the sky, the foot that could trample the wilderness had finally arrived. It was capable of killing all martial immortals. Stomp, this was an extremely rare martial art, but it was like an emperor trembling, with a domineering aura. Clang! Just when everyone thought that Lin Ling would definitely be injured, Lin Ling also attacked. This time, the attack was smoother than usual. There was no need to prepare anything. This meant that after Lin Ling's strength had greatly increased, his control over the mysterious scabbard had become even more perfect. Boom! The foot collided with the giant sword. The Dragon-Tooth City, which was already in ruins, turned into ashes. In the sky, the world essence seemed to be boiling, surging and moving. This caused the 10th layer martial immortal experts to tumble in the air like straws, unable to control their bodies. However, they were also staring at the scene of the collision. Then, they were shocked to find that Lin Ling's sword had actually blocked the foot in the sky. Lord Heaven's Spiritual Treasure is more powerful than Lu Shengyun and Bailey Ishiong. Even if the two of them joined forces, they would not be a match for Lord Heaven's Spiritual Treasure. However, that fierce dragon called Lin Ling blocked the foot by himself. Moreover, Lin Ling has just killed Bailey Ishiong. Even though he was anxious, he was still able to resist the attack. He is truly a genius. This is a battle between geniuses. However, compared to Heaven's Spiritual Treasure, that junior called Lin Ling is more like a genius. Everyone was sent flying by the impact, but they still spoke one after another. That's not how you cultivate the savage 18 steps. Lin Ling held the sword with both hands, still blocking the foot in the sky, and said disdainfully at the same time. His words were undoubtedly like a slap on Heaven's Spiritual Treasure's face. A junior of the martial immortal realm had actually used a lecturing tone to talk to him? Do you only know how to show off? The savage 18 steps is a great body. Heaven's Spiritual Treasure was obviously angry. His feet moved in a strange way and repeatedly stepped on the ground, as if a giant was going to stomp on the earth. According to legend, his talent was God's guard. The strength of his feet was extremely terrifying, and he could erupt 50% of his cultivation level's strength. Coupled with his second-level desolate body, he did not believe that he could not stomp this cockroach to death. Boom, boom, boom. The ground continued to shake as if the dragon's tongue and teeth had been destroyed. Countless feet stepped on the void. Everyone was floating in the distance, and their faces were filled with horror. Under such a terrifying attack, could Lin Ling still be alive? The savage 18 steps is full of loopholes. How did your master teach you? Did he teach you to eat shit? However, before the terrifying power disappeared, a disdainful voice was heard. On the shattered ground, Lin Ling stood with his sword in hand. Not only did he look fine, but he was also trembling with spirit. How is this possible? Heaven's Spiritual Treasure's eyes widened. His previous move could not even be blocked by a first-level half-saint, let alone Lin Ling, who was only a martial immortal. He did not know that the martial art he practiced was taught to martial god Qilin by Li Xiaoyao. In terms of familiarity with the savage 18 steps, no one was more familiar than Lin Ling. The martial art was an advanced 7th-level martial art. It was as vast as the universe. However, there were flaws in it. If one could see through the steps, many of them could be broken. A half-saint genius is nothing more than this. On the ground, Lin Ling laughed wildly. The sword in his hand was pointed at Heaven's Spiritual Treasure. When he heard Lin Ling's sarcastic voice, the Heaven's Spiritual Treasure, who had been maintaining his composure, no longer remained calm. He had not expected Lin Ling to be even more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. A moment of luck does not mean that it will last forever. The Heaven's Spiritual Treasure activated the 18 savage steps once again. This time, the sole of the foot was even more terrifying. This was because the sole of the foot was no longer blocking out the sky. Instead, it was condensed in his right foot. His speed was greatly increased as he shot towards Lin Ling like the finishing touch of a dragon. This was a close combat. Moreover, although the foot looked ordinary, it was more powerful than the previous one. The void suddenly exploded as the sole of his foot shot towards Xueqi with the speed of 50 miles. No one could see through the foot. Everyone's faces were grave. "Watch me break you." However, Lin Ling was as calm as a mountain. The essence, energy, and spirit in his body merged and turned into a sword. The headless old man appeared strangely. His robe fluttered and his sword was like a clap of thunder. Clang! It was an ordinary sword. However, it stabbed the 12 rain acupoints on the sole of Heaven's spiritual treasure's foot. That was a very small acupoint. Normally, it would not be a big problem. However, Lin Ling knew that after Heaven's spiritual treasure used the foot, that acupoint would be his only weak point. Puff! The soul of Heaven's spiritual treasure's foot immediately deflated. The protective light disappeared and blood spurted out from the sole of his foot. Ah! Heaven's spiritual treasure let out a painful cry. His body flew backward and he spat out blood. Lord Heaven's spiritual treasure is injured? There was no one who wasn't shocked and moved when they saw this scene. They did not expect Lin Ling, who was only a martial celestial, to be able to injure a half-saint genius. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.